Ada for moving into the house I inherited even though the lodger doesn't feel comfortable around men. I inherited a house that came with a lodger with a 6-year-old that is renting one of the rooms. She is upset because I have in her words made it terrifying to live here since I've moved in. She doesn't feel safe with her and her daughter living with a man she just met and that she wants to stay away from men because of issues with her ex. That's why living with an old woman felt so safe. By the way, this is all being communicated through notes she's been leaving because she avoids me. I've already wrote back that she can move out whenever. She left another note saying she will, but she really doesn't want to have to because the reason she moved in here was so her daughter could go to the school district here and the only way she was able to afford to live here is because her lease is just for $150, for utilities, and housework and they might have to move back in with her ex. So basically she wants me to move out. I don't want to because the house still has a mortgage that I would have to continue to pay in addition to paying for rent somewhere else. There technically is the option to get a female tenant. However, the prices for renting a single bedroom won't cover the mortgage and I can't afford to make up the difference. Plus I'd have to deal with my grandma's things faster than I want to. Another big thing is I can avoid tax reassessment on the house if I move in within a year. Which is also why selling is definitely off the table. Comments. Commenter 1. You own the house. If she doesn't like it, she can move. She's literally a choosing beggar making these statements while living there damn near rent-free. Commenter 2. Yeah, I would give her options. You can buy the house for $XXX we can sign a new lease with the understanding I will be living here for $300 plus month you give her a formal notice to vacate. Assuming she doesn't have an active lease, it's month to month. You can be apologetic, but not overly. It sucks that her situation has changed, but that's not your fault, that's life. Commenter 3. Your last sentence made me think of something. It also sucks that OP's grandmother died. The tenant has kind of decided that her sucky situation is more valid than OP's. Commenter 4. Besides loss, OP has some financial limitations and evidently needs the rent. Commenter 5. So sorry about your grandma. Please know that one day you will laugh more than cry when you think of her. She left that house to you, because she hoped you'd be blessed by her gift. If you can afford to allow this tenant to break her lease with no penalty, maybe offer that. But I don't think your grandma would want you walking on eggshells and putting this woman and her 6-year-old ahead of your own grieving process during what should be your chance to go through your grandma's things at your own pace. Yours is not the only room in town, she can find another situation. What are you supposed to leave the place frozen in time until this first grader graduates high school? I'm proud of you for even considering this woman's feelings, but don't let her guilt you into debt over what your grandma probably hoped would help you jumpstart some wealth building. You are a beloved grandson and certainly NTA. Commenter 6. NTA, have you even seen this woman face to face and talked to her? This is a her problem not a you problem. Reply, note the issues she had though. Since then I've only seen glimpses of her and her daughter when they quickly leave or go to her room. Commenter 7. She is not terrified of you. She's using that as an excuse to try and guilt you into moving out and letting her keep her sweet deal of $150 per month and ruling the roost. A younger guy who knows he owns the house and wants to control his space is different than an elderly woman who is easy to ignore or bulldoze, or even guilt by citing the alleged needs of your kid. Just keep living your life, hold her to the written agreement or demand she sign one, and if she won't, serve her with notice in accordance with the laws of your jurisdiction so you can get a more reasonable tenant/roommate. I'd start using cameras in public areas if I were you though, before she starts making accusations to the police or other authorities that you are some kind of threat to the safety of her and or her daughter. Follow all laws of your jurisdiction about that too. Commenter 8. Imagine paying $150 per month and thinking you are in a position to demand the owner move out. Commenter 9. My favorite bit is that her explanation for why she's terrified of a man who hasn't done anything to her is because of how her ex treated her, so she's going to escape OP by moving back in with her ex. Update. I had other stuff going on in my life so I sort of put off trying to talk to her and honestly still was debating about what to say to her. I guess procrastinating took care of the problem because I realized yesterday that she had moved out sometime in the last few days. So I guess that's it. Comments. Commenter 1. That is the perfect way to remove a tendon you are less than happy with. You are perfectly allowed to live in your own property, nobody should say squat to that one, you are not the asshole. Commenter 2. I do feel bad for the lady and her kid, but at the end of the day, this was not anything you were obligated to solve or make allowances for her. Especially if she couldn't talk to you directly over it. Commenter 3. They aren't really any options that allowed her to continue living there without him. He couldn't afford to maintain the house and an apartment, she couldn't afford higher rent, selling the place, even if he was willing to, would probably still result in her being forced to leave. It definitely sucks for her, but even if he was able to afford moving out, he's entitled to live there more than she is. Stories number 2. Aita for secretly recording my boss after she kept taking credit for my work and almost cost me a promotion. I, 30F, work as a marketing strategist at a mid-sized company. For the past year, I've been working under this woman, Lena, late 40s, who presents herself as this girl boss mentor type, always preaching empowerment and teamwork. But behind closed doors, she's a two-faced manipulator who slowly chipped away at my confidence and reputation. Every time I submitted a campaign plan, she'd give vague feedback, delay approvals, then reword my ideas and pitch them to the execs like they were hers. At first, I thought maybe it was just miscommunication. Then it kept happening, again and again. She'd shut me out of meetings, CC herself on my client emails but not me, and when I tried to speak up in presentations, she'd cut me off with a passive-aggressive, "Thanks, I'll take it from here." I started getting weird stares from upper management like I was just tagging along, not the one doing the work. The final straw. A major promotion opened up, the kind of role I'd been working toward for years. I found out after the decision was made that Lena had told HR I wasn't ready for more responsibility, and that she had carried the last few quarters. I was livid. I started documenting everything. Voice memos, emails, screenshots, all of it. I finally caught her red-handed trash-talking me on a Zoom call she thought wasn't recording. I sent it all to HR with a formal complaint. Now she's under investigation, and I've been put on a temporary reassignment while they sort it out. Some coworkers say I should have just found a new job and kept it quiet, that I've created unnecessary tension. But why should I have to leave just because she's a liar in heels? Aita for finally defending myself, even if it might get her fired. Stories number 3. Am I overreacting to my girlfriend going to her ex's birthday party without telling me? Hey Reddit. I'm 29M and I've been dating my girlfriend, Lena, 27F, for about 10 months. Things have been great overall, she's funny, smart, independent, and we've talked about maybe moving in together next year. No major issues until this weekend, so here's what happened. On Saturday, Lena told me she was going out with a few friends from college. Cool, no problem, I had plans to watch the game with my brother anyway, but the next day, I saw a photo on one of her friends' Instagram stories. The caption said, "Happy birthday, Jason." I recognized Jason. He's her ex. The one she dated for about 3 years and broke up with about a year before we met. They were pretty serious from what I've gathered. I never made a big deal about it because she told me they're on decent terms but not really close. So naturally, I asked her later that night, "Hey, were you at Jason's birthday thing?" She looked a little surprised and said yeah, but quickly followed up with, "It wasn't a big deal, it was a group thing, and I didn't think it mattered." I didn't raise my voice or accuse her of anything, I just said I wished she'd mentioned it beforehand. She got kind of defensive and said I was making something out of nothing, and that it's not like she was hiding it, but she kind of did hide it. I mean, I don't want to be controlling, and I know people stay friends with their exes, but the fact that she didn't even mention she was going to his birthday rubs me the wrong way. It just feels off. I'm not accusing her of cheating or anything, but I can't shake the feeling that she intentionally kept it vague so I wouldn't ask questions. She said she didn't think I'd care, but the whole thing just makes me feel kind of sidelined. So am I overreacting? Comments. They were part of the same friend group in college. But I honestly didn't know that they were still close. Let alone close enough to go to a birthday. The thing is I didn't know they were still in contact. This is how I found out they in fact still are. I'm not a controlling person. If she just told me that she was going to the party I would have been surprised since I didn't know they still talked. But I wouldn't be mad. I know for a fact she definitely wouldn't be okay with it was it the other way around. I don't really have any male role models in my life. Since my dad passed away when I was 9 and it has just been me and my mom since. I trust her. But I don't know if I'm just overthinking this. Update. Thanks again to everyone who responded. I didn't expect the post to blow up the way it did, and honestly, I've spent the last few hours sitting with it all. A few comments really stuck with me, especially the ones that pointed out it's not necessarily about where she went, but how she handled it. I ended up bringing it up when she came over this evening. Nothing dramatic. I just said I'd been thinking about it and that it bothered me, not even the party itself, but the fact that she didn't mention it. She didn't seem surprised that I brought it up. There was a bit of an eye roll at first, but she didn't push back much. Mostly quiet. The energy in the room shifted right away. She said something vague about not wanting it to be a thing. Not much of an apology, more like trying to smooth it over and move on quickly. And maybe that's what I'm doing too, in my own way. Afterward, we kind of just moved around each other for the rest of the evening. She left very quickly after that. And right now I'm reading comments on my original post. I'm not sure where I land on all of this. Nothing exploded. But it also didn't feel resolved. She didn't seem interested in understanding why it bothered me, just in making sure it didn't mess with the vibe. It's not a breakup level thing. Not yet. But it does feel like something shifted in our relationship. That's all for now. Just figured I'd follow up. Thanks again. Update 2. Figured I'd give one last update, even though things didn't really go the way I hoped. It's been about 10 days since I posted. Things between me and Lena never really got back to normal after that night. We had a few awkward conversations in the days after, nothing explosive, but I could tell there was tension. She kept saying I was overthinking it, that it wasn't that deep, but the way she avoided the topic or brushed it off just made me feel worse. The whole situation stuck with me more than I expected. It wasn't even about the party itself anymore, it was more how she handled it. It became pretty clear we look at communication in relationships really differently. I felt like I couldn't fully trust her to be upfront, and once that feeling crept in, it was hard to shake. We ended up having a more serious talk this past weekend. She admitted she didn't tell me about the party because she knew how I'd react, which kind of confirmed the whole point for me. I don't want to be with someone who feels like they need to hide things to keep the peace. We didn't fight. It was more of a mutual, quiet decision to end things. Just felt like we were on different pages, and forcing it wasn't going to help either of us. It sucks, obviously. I didn't want it to go this way. But in hindsight, I'm glad I trusted my gut. That uneasy feeling never really went away, and I think I'd rather deal with the short-term hurt now than drag this out. Appreciate everyone who gave advice. Help me see it a bit clearer. That's all, not much more to say. Stories number 4. AIO for not inviting my mom to my baby shower after what she said at the gender reveal. I, 29F, am 7 months pregnant with my first child. My husband, 31M, and I have had a bit of a rocky road with fertility, so this pregnancy has been a blessing. My mom, 53F, has always been complicated. She's not outright cruel, but she's passive-aggressive and loves making herself the center of attention. A month ago, we had a gender reveal. Small, backyard-type thing with our close circle. When we revealed it was a girl, people clapped, cheered, and my mom sighed loudly. Then muttered, "Well, I was hoping for a boy." I guess that makes 4 disappointments in a row. I'm her only child. I stared at her. She laughed like it was a joke people around us heard. I pulled her aside later and told her that was hurtful and uncalled for. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, it's not that deep. You know how moody you get." So for the baby shower, I didn't invite her. I just couldn't handle her ruining another moment. When she found out through a cousin, she called me crying, saying I'm cutting her out of the most important time in our lives and how everyone makes mistakes. Now I'm being called dramatic by a few family members, even though others support me. Am I overreacting for not wanting her there after that? Stories number 5. AITA for calling the cops on my neighbor and getting my sister in trouble. My sister, 45F, is married with 3 kids, and bought a house about 3 to 4 years ago in the super nice suburb of town. It's a great area, lots of parks, trails, with a really good school system. I found and bought a house in the same neighborhood. I loved it for the size of the yards, great for my dogs. Love I can now walk or jog to all the trails and the local lake. It is, however, very suburban and most of the people here have families, making me a little bit of an outlier. I'm fine with that, I don't really care. I live in the house by myself. Neighbors have been nice, but most of them hang out with each other and have play dates with the kids. There are neighborhood BBQs that I have been to. So a week ago I am watching TV at home, around 9 p.m., and all of a sudden my dogs start going crazy. My doorbell rings multiple times, and then rapid knocking. I jump off my couch, look at my Ring doorbell, and it's a stranger, male, knocking on my door. I have no idea who he is, and he just keeps banging on my door. My dogs are freaking out. So I called the cops. He goes away after about 5 to 7 minutes, the cops show up 20 minutes later. I show them the video, they told me they know who it is, wouldn't tell me, and then left. The next day I get a phone call from my sister. She's super pissed that I called the cops on Dave, and how could I do that in this community? I'm confused, who is Dave? Oh, it's apparently the local neighborhood watch guy and school teacher, and he thought I was driving too fast down the street and wanted to talk with me. I was flabbergasted. 1, there's no way to drive fast in this neighborhood, there are stop signs everywhere, cops everywhere, they have their own police force, and there are speed bumps every 2 blocks. 2, why didn't he call/text/email before knocking on the door at 9 p.m. on anyone's house, much less a single woman at home? Sister said that my reaction was totally over the top and, you don't live in the hood anymore. People visit other people. I stand by my right to be safe and not get harassed by the neighbor. Sister is pissed because there was no danger whatsoever, and apparently this was the discussion at the recent PDA meeting, and since I wasn't there, why would I go to a PDA meeting? She was charged with defending me and now she looks bad by association. She also brought up that I walk my dogs, without a bra on, all the time, and that's just not good, WTF. She wants me to reach out to Dave and apologize and say that I am absolutely sorry for calling the cops and driving fast. She told me that I needed to play nice with the neighbors unless I wanted to be moving in a year. Maybe I did overreact, but I am just so annoyed that I don't want to do anything related to that, and maybe that makes me the AH. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. What Dave did was highly inappropriate, and you being discussed at a PDA meeting was also inappropriate. Is this an HOA? Reply. Actually no, there's no HOA. This is partially why I bought here. The PDA meetings apparently have just slowly become a neighborhood meeting because everyone is there, I guess, for my sister. There are a few other people here that don't have kids or aren't married, but I don't know what they do or care. Commenter 2. NTA. I'd get a sign for my door that said, fuck off and get a life, Dave. Also, the no bra thing is creepy as hell, so I would get the sleaziest dog walking outfit I could find. I advise you not to drink the Kool-Aid at the neighborhood barbecues, you might turn mental like these busybodies. Reply. The more I think about it, the more I think it's my sister talking when she's talking about the dog walking bra thing. She said, and BTW, walking your dog without a bra on is just weird and needs addressing. I dunno, she's more of a prude than the nose. Commenter 3. NTA. Dave needs to keep his nose out of people's business and learn to knock politely. Busybodies are the worst. I would move out of Stepford, if I were you. That small town mentality is toxic. I will walk my dog braless today in your honor. Reply. Go braless. Honestly, walking a dog braless wasn't even something that crossed my mind. I walk them early in the morning, in my PJs. With a cup of coffee in my hand. Commenter 4. They need something to talk about and you're the only unordinary element in their very ordinary world. Tell them to start swinging to kill the boredom already and leave you TF out of their discussions. Interesting how your sister is on their side. Did she always forego loyalty just to fit in with new friends? Reply. She's always been something. Half the reason I moved here is because she loves it here. She's constantly talked about how great the neighborhood was, how nice the parks were, how great it was to be able to just walk everywhere and the local bakery is super nice, etc. So this is her fault that her pig-headed little sister is ruining her reputation, lol. Honestly, I feel like I should just go to the next PTA meeting to see if it is as big of a deal as she is saying it is. She sometimes blows things out of proportion. Why didn't OOP look before calling the police? Honestly, I didn't even think to do so. I rarely use the ring thing to do much more than watch my mailman drop off the mail. Literally, my dog started barking, I got up off the couch, and then the doorbell rang in rapid succession. I'm trying to grab my phone to see, and grab the dogs. Then bang 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 on my door. I saw it, someone I didn't know, banging on my door. So I just ran upstairs, and called the cops. Update, I think I am doing this right. I wanted to update people because I got a few DMs. Initially I just wanted it to blow over, I hate confrontation and I like being left alone, so I said whatever. I then made acquaintances with my neighbors next door, the gardeners. They are empty nesters, that's what happens when you have whoops kids at 21. My neighbor, and are very nice. They told me that the PTA meeting is nothing more than a reason for a bunch of people to get together for food and beer, and if you really had something to talk about, you go to the Real School Board meeting. They told me when and where, and I went. Lo and behold, it's like a neighborhood barbecue. They all gather at someone's house, and order pizza and bring beer, and maybe a couple of pies/desserts. Not everyone comes, really just the neighbors in the area, and then it rotates. I had a warm welcome, and no one really talked about school/kid stuff. My sister was there, but she avoided me. I ended up talking to a couple people and gently, aka very indirectly, brought up Dave, and everyone here was right, everyone knows Dave. The general consensus is he's a busybody, has reported half the neighborhood to, I don't even know. Nothing ever comes of it, and he's kind of a nuisance. He does have a loyal group of neighbors that defend him but mostly just stay clear of him. I ended up telling my neighbor about what happened, and she laughed, saying that she would have done the same, and her husband chimed in, though if you open the door for Dave, the only thing to fear is that you will be talked to death. So all in all, no one seemed to care about what happened, and honestly, no one even seemed to know. So, I went over to my sister's, since she's the only one that seems to be making this into a big deal. Long story short, she is. She doesn't like that I moved here. That's really it. She just really didn't think I would ever move to the suburbs, and I did, she really didn't want to be lumped together with me. We got into kind of a fight over it. Also, she wanted to run for school board, and Dave sits on the school board. So he was pissed that I called the cops, and she felt like I was getting her in trouble. We currently aren't talking. That's the story. TLDR, my neighbors all know Dave and think he's a busybody. No one else seems to actually know I called the cops on him. Turns out my sister is the one making it into a big deal because she doesn't like me living here. Stories number 6. My ex who left me to marry his mum's choice has been telling people how miserable he is. I know I shouldn't feel so good about it, but I do. We were both international students, and in our second year of undergrad, he started saying his family would want him to marry by 23 to 24. We were Indian students, just 20, in a different country, and he always had a problem with me assimilating too much. I made friends with people who were not Indian, and he used to berate me for mixing with foreigners in Europe. Phew, but that entire 1.5 years of relationship mentally screwed me over for some time. I finally started dating again at 23. The whole time, with my ex, he made me feel small and inferior, and I started to hate myself for being career-oriented. He would be angry if I hung out with my best friend, now Biel, who was gay, always had a problem if I wore dark color lipstick. Believe it or not, that was my breaking point. I cannot live without red lipstick. He left after undergrad. By that time we had broken up, and I used to avoid him, but a huge portion of the Indian student community thought I was a low woman and I had a social reputation problem. I wouldn't even get invited to Diwali celebrations for undergrad, because I had left a pious, good guy to do characterless stuff. Stuff was crazy back then. I was so glad I moved to a different city for masters, and when I moved back, most of the horrible rumors had died down. But the aftereffects stayed with me. He told me, when leaving, he will marry a good girl, who his mother with love and choose. And he did. And the poor village girl, he thought, not only separated him from his parents in a year, she now says that they won't have kids, if one of the properties is not in her name. Good for her, I guess, but better for my shitty ex and his family. My friend, who told me all this, said that he regretted leaving me the moment he came back to India, but his parents wouldn't let him leave the country after that. His life apparently is a living hell right now, working for his rich dad's business, that he hates, going miserable in his marriage, and still no kids, which he wanted by 24, we are 27. I am currently at my parents', and will have to see him in a few days when I go for the reunion with my undergrad friends. I know he will make offhand comments, but well, this time I'll have ammo to fight back. Just wanted to share that karma hit my ex, and I am pleased. Edit, many people are asking me to take a hot guy, but I don't need to. I am engaged. My fiancé is with me at my parents'. And he will most likely be at the reunion. Most of us in the reunion who have spouses are coming with them. Stories number 7. I lie about how many children I have, and my heart breaks every time. I am posting this on my main account because it's my story and, for the first time, I need to own it. I have 5 children. 3 were removed from me by CPS for neglect and 2 I still have. I was an awful mother the first time around my eldest child, and I met our first social worker when he was 5 weeks old. His whole life was under a social worker's eye. He was 7 when he and his sisters were taken. I fought hard for those children, for a long time. I probably shouldn't have. They suffered because of my pride. I was so busy arguing about why I was a good mother that I forgot to actually be one. My kids were dirty, underfed, and lacked the basic necessities, and I was saying I was a good mother. I was selfish and uncaring and making stupid choices. I got a new boyfriend about a year before they were taken. At this point CPS were doing background checks on anyone I had around the kids. New boyfriend turned out to have offenses against children on his record. I left him straight away. Almost exactly a year later I got another new boyfriend. This one also had offenses against children on his record. I had dragged my poor kids in a full circle from one dangerous situation to another, put them at risk twice. I realized what I was doing to those kids. After 7 years of fighting I gave up. I walked into the CPS office and told them to take the children. I was done. I walked away from my whole life, left town, took more drugs than I can remember, and just tried to forget, and when that didn't work I went home to nothing. CPS said I abandoned my children, which I guess I did, so I was never allowed to see them again. When I lost my children, I also lost my home, my family, my friends. I literally nuked my entire life. My kids' lives too. I don't even know how I got back up after. 6 years after the kids were taken I got pregnant. I remember so vividly looking at the test and realizing how fucked it all was, realizing that as soon as this kid is born it's gone. I just put up an emotional barrier at that point because I'm not going through that trauma twice. I made myself completely numb and faked being happy. I started preparing for the baby whilst feeling nothing. I got lucky, if you can call it that. I had placenta previa and spent a month in the hospital, ending in an emergency C-section and a premature baby. This meant that CPS couldn't prove we were bad parents because there was no assessment done, and when baby got the okay to go home we were informed we could take her home with us. Up until then I was certain she, the baby, would be taken. We got to be assessed whilst actually parenting and I was still faking it. CPS couldn't find any reason to keep baby on child protection plan, so it was dropped down after 6 months. 6 months after that they left us alone completely. They referred to me once as one of their success stories. Yeah, right. I have never stopped expecting them to turn up one day and tell me it's all a mistake and I can't have baby anymore. She's 10 now. Even having her sister 6 years ago I expected them to show up, but they didn't. My 6-year-old has never even met a social worker. We haven't had them involved for 9 years. I still die inside when someone knocks on my door. I love my kids but they trigger some thoughts I wish I didn't have. I love all my kids, but I can't justify the trauma I gave them. I don't have any answers. I was a selfish person who put her own wants and needs over her children, and I don't know if I've changed. Maybe I've just got really good at pretending. I've been faking it for 10 years, and now I don't have a clue who I am. Time has passed now and no one in my actual life is aware I have other children, not my neighbors or the kids' school or anyone. I don't have friends. I avoid conversation with people at all times, and if I get asked I lie. 2 kids, I say it feels so disrespectful to my other 3 children, but it's so much easier than explaining. People get a look on their faces which I hate, a mixture of judgment and pity. I feel like my whole life is a lie. I feel like an awful person that threw away their first family and just had another. I know that's what my kids must think of me. The 2 kids I have with me are loved, fed, clothed. They have everything they need and want. My first 3 children never had that, and I will have to explain that to them one day, explain why I couldn't be this person for them. I don't have any answers for them and maybe they won't even look for me. I wouldn't if I were them. I don't even know who I am anymore. I've been a bad mother and a good mother, and I don't know where one of those ends and the other begins. I feel like an imposter in my own life. Stories number 8. Wipta, if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me. Me, F29, and my ex fiancé, M27, have been living together for about 1.5 years. Fiancé got his undergraduate degree, worked for a couple years and then decided to get an MBA, which is how he ended up in our city. We moved in together after he finished his MBA program. Fiancé is from the Midwest and his mom has always wanted him to move back. When he told her he was staying here she was heartbroken. I went to college and got my degree in a STEM field. After I graduated, I got a job with my current company and moved to the city where we currently live. It's a big international company with multiple locations in the US and international. I love my job, I like the company I work for, and the pay is pretty good. All in all, a pretty good deal. During COVID my office shut down and we all went WFH. After COVID they decided not to reopen this office, so I've been 100% WFH since early 2020. I currently make considerably more than him, mainly because I've been working for 7 years and I'm in tech. I had been living by myself in a 1-bedroom apartment and just had my office set up in the living room since it was just me. When we moved in together, we decided to get a 2-bedroom apartment so I could use the extra room as an office. Because of this I was paying 2/3 of the rent and he paid 1/3. We split everything else 50/50. So the problem started this past May. Fiancé's mom told him she wanted to move to our city to be closer to him. She asked if she could stay with us while she looked for a job and got settled. She's a teacher, so figured she'd be able to get a teaching job pretty quickly. Because of that I didn't really mind her staying with us, as I figured it would just be for a couple months over the summer. Since I thought it would only be for a couple months, I moved my office into a corner of our bedroom and fiancé bought a bed to put in the second bedroom. The problem is she never applied for any teaching positions and has been living with us for 6 months now. She and I have really been struggling with each other since she moved in. I can't make her understand that I work full-time. She constantly interrupts while I'm working, which is bad enough, but she even interrupts when I'm on Teams calls. She always asks me to take her places. BC, she doesn't like to drive in our city. She has pretty outdated views of gender roles and is constantly giving me a hard time for not doing more around the house and making fiancé help with chores, do his own laundry, etc. The constant criticism and insults are just really wearing me down. And I hate having my office shoved in a corner of the bedroom. Back in September I told my fiancé that since it looks like his mom is going to stay a while we should split the rent 3 ways. He told me she can't effort that since she has to conserve money until she gets a job. I told him I wasn't happy paying extra for a bedroom I can't use, so finally he said we could do a 50-50th split. I could afford to pay the extra, but I hate the idea of funding her lifestyle. Every time I complain about her or the situation he says he agrees but doesn't know what to do because he can't kick out his mom. And he won't talk to her about the way she treats me or how she behaves. When I ask what the long-term plan is, he just says he doesn't know. I've thought about giving him an ultimatum to tell her she has to leave, but I think he'd just end up resenting me for essentially putting him mom on the street. So one of my girlfriends is losing her roommate the end of February. Our lease renews June 1st. I'm very strongly considering moving out of our current apartment and moving in with her. I can afford to pay my part of rent on our current apartment and also half the rent at my friend's apartment. It's not ideal, but I'm not a big spender, so it's doable. The issue is, if he and his mom aren't able to pay for 1/3 the rent each, there is no way they could cover the whole thing on their own. But I can't live like this anymore, so I'm pretty sure this is what I'll do, but I wanted to see if people thought I'd be the AH for leaving them like this. Update: Wibta, if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me. This past weekend I got my STBX alone so we could talk, which was actually harder than it should have been because his mom always tries to tag along when we do anything. Going through all the comments everyone left and the PMs people sent really helped me decide how to approach this. And also, brought up a lot of good questions I should have thought of myself. Back to the discussion with the ex, I wanted to give him one more chance to pick us over his mom, not because I thought he would, but I just wanted to be able to tell myself I give him the opportunity. I explained again about how unhappy I am with the situation, how it's affecting my work because of her constant interruptions and just being unhappy and uncomfortable that I'm forced to work out of a corner in our bedroom. And I reminded him that until a few months ago I was paying the majority of the rent, and being that I make so much more than him, it's really my salary that keeps us all afloat. And I also brought up, again, the way she treats me and talks to me. And he replied the same way he has been. He agrees it's not right how she acts and that it's really uncomfortable for us all. WTF. I don't care if she's uncomfortable. Previously I would have dropped it there. But this time I told him how angry and disappointed I was that he let me pay for 2/3 of the rent when she first moved, and how unfair it was that I'm still paying for half when there are 3 people living there and she is the only one with her own bedroom. It was the same story, she has to conserve money since she doesn't have any income currently. Which brought up the question of where all her stuff went when she moved. What money does she use for incidentals? So evidently, when she got divorced, she asked for the divorce after my ex went off to college. It doesn't sound like her husband/ex's dad wanted the divorce. His dad bought her out of the equity in their house. Ex didn't have any idea how much that was or how much is left. But until she moved here she was working full-time as a teacher and living in a small apartment, so she should not have had to tap into the divorce settlement money very much. Other than that, ex didn't have much insight to her finances other than what she told him, that she has to conserve money. I told him straight up that I'm moving out before the end of the month. And from now on I'm only paying 25%. As some of the commenters pointed out, she has a whole bedroom while I have to share with a man-child. So she should have to pay twice as much, and after I move out I'm not paying for anything else, no utilities, no food, nothing other than rent. I have a pretty idea what his finances are like, and if he has to pay 75% of the rent all by himself it's going to take a huge chunk of his net income. And after he pays utilities and buys groceries there won't be anything left for incidentals. Rent was due on the 1st but it's not late until after the 5th. So he has 2 days to come up with the $. If he doesn't come up with it and I end up covering, then I'll reduce the amount I pay in future months. The only reason I'm going to keep paying any of the rent is even after I move out, I'm still on the hook. I talked to the leasing office and they explained that since X and I signed a single rental agreement together, e.g. one contract we both signed as opposed to 2 contracts we sign individually, we are both responsible for the rent. They don't care who actually pays as long as it gets paid. The only alternative would be if he agrees to sign a new lease by himself, or together with his mom. But in all likelihood he wouldn't be able to pass the credit check on his own, so I'm kind of stuck. I don't think he'll do anything stupid tough because he's going to need to find someplace to live after this, and a collection on his credit report wouldn't be good. I also told him that I'm going to find someplace to work during the day until I move so she can't bother me. My friend I'm moving in with said I could work there during the day since she and her current roommate have in-person 9-5s. I took her up on that for now. After living with his mom, I'm not about to overstay my welcome, so I'm going to find some other options that I can rotate through. Someone suggested checking out the public library, or if it comes to it I'll get a membership at one of those WeWork kind of places. Just in case, I brought my important papers/files/valuables and my friend is storing them for me until I move in. He really didn't take it well. The surprising thing to me is that he was surprised by everything. He seemed really shocked that I wasn't prioritizing his mom. I really got the feeling that he sincerely believed I wanted to take care of her as much as him, and he kept saying stuff like, "What about my mom? What am I going to tell her? That's how she is, but we still need to help her," etc. He asked about our relationship and the engagement. I told him after I move out I need some space from him. In a few months, when we've both had some time/space to process what happened, if we both agree, we can talk about the relationship. But he'd have to prove that he's going to have my back going forward and will set boundaries with his mom. I told him that just to avoid more drama, but I don't see a future in which we are together. I told him he needs to tell his mom because she's not my responsibility or problem, and she'll know something's up when I start moving my stuff out. He hasn't told her what's going on yet, but this weekend I'm going to start moving things so he doesn't have much time. My friend's current roommate starts a new job in another state on the 3rd, so in reality I can probably move in 2 to 3 weeks, just depending when she actually leaves. I don't expect him to do anything bad, other than sulk and complain, but if he does something stupid, or doesn't pay his part of the rent, the ace up my sleeve is I'll tell the leasing office his mom moved in, which is prohibited in the lease. Honestly, getting evicted would solve a lot of my problems right now, so it's a pretty valid threat, I think. Now that I've mentally and emotionally separated myself from him and his mom, I'm looking forward to her reaction when he tells her what's going on. If it gets too ugly, I'll find a cheap Airbnb or hotel or something. I've had some friends, including the one I'm moving in with, offer to let me couch surf for a few weeks, but I just can't do that to someone else. So, that's it. I'm leaving and I really don't care how that affects them. Update: Wibta, if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me, I moved out. Hey everyone. I've been getting a lot of requests for updates, so I wanted to let everyone know how it went when X's mom found out about me not covering all the rent and moving out. TLDR, it was kind of a shit show. But I'm moved out and I'm off the lease. FMIL is on the lease now, and she and X's dad are covering half the rent and STBX is covering the other half. Last week I started working out of my friend's apartment, the one I'm moving in with, so I didn't see X's mom on Monday. Tuesday around lunch she sent me text asking where I was. I told her I was working and I'd be home late tonight. She replied that X told her I wasn't going to be contributing as much, so she had to loan him money for rent. That wasn't a surprise to me, so I just replied with an emoji. I had plans with my friend and her roommate, who I'm also friends with, to go out for dinner and then get some drinks. So by the time I got home it was after midnight and X's mom was already asleep. The fun started Wednesday morning. I was getting ready to go to work at my friend's place when X's mom stopped me and said we need to discuss my financial situation. Then she went on a whole tirade about her having to cover my part of the rent, me making foolish choices by going out to dinner when I couldn't even pay rent, I was irresponsible with money and inconsiderate of the impact it had on others, blah, blah, blah. She went on to say that if she was going to have to pay my share of the rent, that she expected me to do a better job of keeping on top of chores and keeping the apartment clean and organized. I told her I was moving out since obviously STBX hadn't told her yet. She seemed, I don't know, pleased with herself. All she had to say was, maybe that's for the best. When I got home that night, right off the bat, she wanted to talk. She said instead of me moving out, we could get a bigger apartment and she'd be willing to help by paying the difference between a 2BR and a 3BR. Then we could go back to the arrangement X and I had before she moved in, me paying 2/3 of the balance and him paying 1/3. Honestly, when she was saying this I think my brain vapor locked. She was making it sound like she was doing us a favor by offering to pay the increase in rent. Apparently this man-child who tells his mom literally every single thing about our lives and relationship hadn't bothered to tell his mom how much I was actually contributing. It seems like once she discovered X wasn't paying for everything like she thought, she wasn't as excited about me moving out. I tried to be polite and told her I'd already given notice to our apartment complex that I was moving out at the end of the month and already committed to move in with my friend. She kept pushing the issue and said if she was willing to pay the difference, I should just stay, because that would really be best for everyone. By then I was getting annoyed and told her that because of the way she has been acting and treating me I had no interest in living with her anymore. That's when the best line of this whole dumpster fire came out of her mouth. She said she was worried I was taking advantage of her son, and if we had told her about our financial arrangement she would have been more understanding of why I wasn't keeping up with the apartment. I told her maybe a good lesson from this is to try being nice to everyone in the future and not just the people you think can help you. And I asked her why she didn't help out more since she wasn't doing anything productive all day. She did not like either of those comments and it got pretty hostile with both of us yelling at each other. And to be fair, we both said some pretty awful things to one another. Finally I told her I was going to inform the rental office that she had been living there contrary to the lease agreement because getting evicted would be worth it to see her living on the street. I grabbed my laptop and went to my friend's. I didn't even bother packing an overnight bag. Next afternoon, Thursday, X texted me and said he had added his mom to the lease effective the first of the month and that she and his dad, I have no idea how that poor man got roped into this, would pay half the rent and X would pay the other half. I confirmed with the property manager that I was off the lease and didn't have any further obligation. I got it in email so I have a record. I put disconnect orders in for the utilities under my name and told him to call and set up accounts under his name. I'm going to lose the damage deposit, it goes to whoever is living there when lease ends, but it's a small price to pay to be free. On the way home I stopped and got a bunch of boxes to pack my stuff up. She was pretty hostile when I got home and when she saw how much I was taking she got worse. I ended up taking Friday off to finish packing and on Saturday got some friends to help move stuff to my new place. I'm going to pay my friends some rent for the next 2 weeks until the one move out. They didn't want me to, but I'm not going to stay in someone's home and not contribute. If nothing else, living with X and his mom taught me that. Last night X and I got together and talked for the first time since Saturday. He said his mom is staying until June when the lease is up, then she's moving back to their hometown. According to him, she just really didn't like living here and that's why she didn't try to find a job. Then he asked how long a break I thought we should take. A few commenters gave me a hard time for stringing him along, so I was brutally honest and told him I could not be with someone that allowed others to treat me the way he allowed his mom to treat me and that I hoped he learned to stand on his own and establish some boundaries. He looked like he was going to cry and just got up and left. As far as I'm concerned, this is over and done. I'm going to call it a learning experience and be glad I found out how awful X's mom is before we got married. The thing that amazes me is the amount of damage this woman leaves in her wake and how utterly oblivious she is. She destroyed our engagement and relationship, is leaving X in a much worse financial situation, pushed back her ex-husband's retirement by I don't know how many years since now he likely has to pay off of the mortgage, or second mortgage, he had to get to pay her half of the equity. And she made my life hell for 6+ months. And she's walking away completely unscathed. According to my ex, she's going back to her hometown and picking up her old teaching job. I'm thinking about going to visit my parents next week and working from their house. I want to tell them how boring and undramatic they are and how I'm so grateful for that and love them for it lol. Final update, Wibta, if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me, I moved out. I haven't posted here BC, honestly there hasn't been any real drama or updates since my last post. But, I've had several people DM asking for an update so I thought I'd let everyone know how everything turned out. If you haven't seen it, you can find the history in my profile. After I moved out of my ex and I's place I did end up going to visit my parents for a while. It was really just to give the girl whose lease I was taking over space to get her stuff packed up and moved out. It was great to visit with my parents and they were really supportive about everything and the choices I made. Mom and I spent a whole Sunday afternoon on the couch watching awful Hallmark movies while Dad fed us way too many mojitos. I've been living with my friend for about 4 months and everything has been going great. I feel like we're both super respectful and considerate of each other and it's made everything so easy and chill. After dealing with my ex's mom for so long it was kind of a shock not to have all the drama and toxicity. I did hear from ex's mom 3 times after I moved out. The first time she texted to ask if I'd taken the air fryer, I did, it was mine. Then she texted a couple weeks later asking me to give her a ride to the pharmacy to pick up her prescriptions. And then she texted one last time telling me I needed to pay part of the utilities for the last month I lived there. I ignored her the first 2 times and the last time responded that she should either use the money she saved while I was covering her rent or use the money they get back from the damage deposit. It's been crickets since then. I did see my ex one last time about 6 weeks ago. He found some of my stuff that I'd accidentally left behind so we met up so he could give it to me. I was glad we met up because it convinced me I'd done the right thing. I didn't feel anything when I saw him except for relief that I didn't need to deal with his mom anymore. He asked if I'd be willing to give it another try if he put boundaries in place with his mom. I was honest and told him that I didn't see him in that way anymore and did not want to get back together. He looked like he expected that answer and didn't make a fuss. He did say that after I left stuff with his mom got pretty tense. I guess things were tight financially, which I knew would happen, and she was upset that due to his job he couldn't drive her around and cater to needs. He said she ended up moving back to their hometown the beginning of May, which was the final month of their lease. He said was going to move back also once the lease was up because his friends were all in the middle of leases and already had roommates. He didn't want to live with a stranger and the only apartments he could afford on his own were studios in really sketchy areas. So he's going to go back home and live with his dad. He didn't have a job there yet, but he figured it was the safest option. He's got his MBA and almost a couple years of work experience since graduating, so he's hoping that'll help him find a new job reasonably quickly. I kind of feel bad for him because he loves it here and his hometown isn't awesome. I didn't feel too bad though since it's really his own fault everything ended up this way. He didn't say how or what his mom was doing and I didn't ask. I haven't seen or heard from him since then. I pretty clear I wasn't interested in trying again, and I don't want to be friends, as I just don't need the drama. I've been on a couple casual dates but really I'm not looking for anything right now. I'm just enjoying hanging out with friends, taking advantage of the summer going hiking and stuff. I've spent some time reflecting on everything. I think if I'd been more vocal early on and stood up for myself, insisted that she pay rent, and not let her overstay that maybe all this could have been avoided. But I'm glad I don't have to deal with her anymore so I'm content with how everything ended up. Cheers and be well. Stories number 9. Aita for refusing to switch desks with a coworker because I didn't want to sit near the office microwave. So I, 25F, work in a small office where everyone has their own little desk. Nothing fancy, just cubicles and fluorescent lighting, the usual. A few weeks ago, one of my coworkers, let's call her Cindy, asked me if I'd be willing to switch desks with her. Her reason? She said the lighting at her desk gives her migraines. Fair. I was about to say yes, until I realized, her desk is right next to the microwave. Like literally, I'd be sitting 3 feet away from where everyone heats up their leftover fish and spaghetti. I already know what kind of chaos happens around that microwave. People leave stuff splattering everywhere, someone always burns popcorn at least once a week, and there's one guy who reheats boiled eggs. Boiled eggs. The smell just lingers like a ghost. So I politely said, hey, I get the light issue, but I really can't focus with all the smells and noise coming from the break area. Sorry. I thought that would be the end of it. Well, apparently not. She brought it up again the next day. Then again. Then she went to our supervisor and said I wasn't being flexible and that a good teammate would help out someone with a medical issue. Now some coworkers are giving me the side eye like I'm being selfish or something. I even suggested she ask someone else who sits farther from the break room, but she said I had the perfect spot. I guess she means the lighting, but like, why should I have to deal with reheated tuna every lunch break? I honestly feel bad because migraines do suck. But I also feel like she's guilt-tripping me into giving up a decent spot so I can suffer instead. She had that desk before I even started working here, so it's not like I took it from her. And it's not my fault the office design is weird, so now it's become this awkward thing where she barely talks to me unless it's to bring up her condition and how people don't support her. Aita for not switching desks just to avoid sitting by the microwave. Or should I just suck it up and be a good coworker? Stories number 10. I, 38M, found out my wife, 36F, cheated in the beginning of our relationship. My wife and I have been together since 2010, married in 2016. We both work full-time and don't have kids. We've been trying for a while without success, though recent events left me wondering if I really want this with her. We met when we both got into university, me in 2007 and she in 2008, we were friends before we got together. In the end of 2009/start of 2010, she was going through a bad time in her relationship at the time, and I ended up supporting her with a mutual friend of ours. She broke up with her ex, and a few months later, one thing led to another and we ended up kissing, which led to me inviting her on a date, and the rest just happened. We were officially together in 2010, and I couldn't be happier. Our marriage and relationship in general were always pretty good, we've always communicated well, and I never had a reason to suspect my wife was cheating. Last Saturday, there was a barbecue in her brother's house. I got inside to get some stuff in the kitchen. While I was looking inside the fridge, I overheard my wife talking to her sister in the other room. I wasn't trying to snoop on them at first, I really don't do this kind of thing, but then I heard something like, my name, can never know about this. Well, of course that was my cue to actually snoop. I hid and listened to their talking. Apparently her sister almost cheated on her boyfriend and was feeling guilty, and my wife told her about the time she slept with a guy who was a lab assistant with her at the university. After we started dating, we were exclusive, see edit 2, in 2010. In her own words, she said, I wasn't sure things with my name would work out at the time and I just allowed myself to do it. I felt guilty once I saw how much he loved me and treated me well, and I could see a future with him. Then her sister asked if something else happened later in the relationship, and my wife said, no, it was just that one time and I wish I could forget about it. I haven't talked to her about this yet. I'm not even sure how to approach her. I feel incredibly hurt, and I know confronting her right now may just worsen things. Again, I never had reasons to suspect she cheated, but she hid this from me all these years, and now that I just found out, it feels like she just cheated on me. I'm really broken. She noticed I am not myself these past days, and I dismissed it by saying it's just stress, but she knows me, and she will keep trying to get an answer. I don't know what to do. Should just try and forget what I heard. I don't know if I should talk to her right now, or process it in therapy first. Edit. I decided I will talk to her, but not right now. I'm still very upset and I don't want this to turn into a shouting match. I want it to be a conversation, not a fight. I have a therapy session today and I will speak with my therapist about it. Hopefully it will help me start this conversation with my wife. Had I known she cheated at the time, I would have broken up with her. I understand everyone saying, just leave, but this is the person I built my life with. The person who supported me in so many ways, and helped me grow as a person and as a professional. Before I make any harsh decisions, I want to hear what she has to say about this. Then I will decide for myself what will be the way forward. No, I don't believe she cheated on me other than this time. She never gave me any reasons to think she did. I've always had access to her phone, she was never secretive of anything, and we spend most of our free time together. But how she will answer when I talk to her about it will surely either confirm this, or change it completely. Edit 2. I talked to my therapist. It helped me a lot, my head is in a much better place now, and I will talk to my wife tonight. My decision on what will be my next steps will be based on the way she reacts and responds to me. Also, people are assuming we weren't exclusive when the cheating happened. We were. Words were lost in translation as, after we started dating, literally means, in my mother tongue, and this is something we say in my country only when couples are exclusive. Which was our case. We did have a phase of friends with benefits when we were both seeing other people, but we knew about it. TLDR, I found out my wife cheated in the beginning of our relationship because she was not sure if things with me were going to work out with me. I overheard her saying this to her sister. Said she regretted it, after seeing a future with me, and nothing of the kind happened again. Should just try and forget what I heard. Comments by OOP. You may want to hold off on trying for a child. No worries, no way I am even getting hard with all of this going on. Take inventory. How is your relationship before this bomb? How does she treat you? Do you feel loved, cared for and respected? Do you feel the same about her? Before this, it was awesome. She treats me well, we respect each other, love each other, really, we have our ups and downs, but I was genuinely happy sharing my life with her. It appears you guys started fairly soon after this breakup, perhaps too soon, maybe. Perhaps she didn't have time to heal, find herself again. We sometimes lose ourselves in relationships, then it can take time to redefine ourselves afterwards. We did, but not in an official way. After she broke up with her ex, we had a friends with benefits phase, when we would just hang out as friends and have fun when we felt like it. At this time, we were also seeing other people, and we both knew about it, so it wasn't cheating. Again, we weren't exclusive. Her cheating on me, however, happened after I asked her to be my girlfriend, officially. She said yes, we were a couple, changed Facebook status, etc. Apparently this slip happened a few weeks after, in a party they threw to say goodbye to one of her friends who was leaving the country. She kissed the guy, the lab assistant, and ended up sleeping with him, and later regretting it. Rationally, I know the context and know what was going on in her mind at the time, but still, it happened, and if I knew it back then, we would have broken up for sure. I will talk to her about it, and depending how this conversation will go, then I have some thinking to do. That's why I don't want to do it right now when my head is hot. Serious question, if you just started dating, were you exclusive at the time of the incident? We were. I think this was lost in translation, as in our main language, we use namorar, which translates to date, when a couple is official/exclusive. We did have a friends with benefits phase when we were both seeing other people, but we knew about it. The cheating happened after I asked her to be my girlfriend, which in our language would be when we became namorados, or boyfriend/girlfriend. That was the confusion, I guess. So I guess another important question is, do you really think you wouldn't have forgiven her if she had confessed it when it happened? Do you really think you wouldn't have missed her and found a way to work through that broken trust? No, I would probably have broken up with her, had I known at the time. Especially this early on. I was a different person back then, and this would have hurt my ego so bad that I wouldn't even want to look her in the face again. I'm a different person today, and I understand the context of that time, almost as someone who would be watching from a third-person perspective, if that makes sense. That's why I didn't say anything just yet. I don't think this is the end. I will talk to her, but depending on how she responds, that will be a game changer, for good or worse. Why is language so damn hard? LMAO. We are dating means nos estamos namorando, in my mother tongue, Portuguese. And in my country, we only say that, namorar, when a couple is exclusive/official. To the non-official stage we use other words, ficar/pegar/se conhecer. So yes, we were exclusive/official when it happened. Notable comment. Commenter. You're worried that confronting her might harm your relationship, but the reality is that it has already been harmed. You don't have the option of the relationship not suffering, Your choices are whether you want to bear all of the suffering yourself, or whether you want to work through it with her. If you don't tell her that you know, then you will suffer in silence. Whether you intend to or not, you'll start to resent her. You'll lash out at her, and she won't even know why. That will harm your relationship. This doesn't have to be a relationship killer, but I don't think you can have a healthy relationship going forward unless you have a real conversation with her about it. Update: I received a lot of good feedback on my other post. As usual, there's the "Divorce Now" crew on Reddit, but among those, I was actually surprised to see good suggestions. Anyway, after I made the post, I talked to my therapist. She helped me put things in perspective, and made me really think on what and how I value my relationship with my wife. She made me realize that I really needed to have this conversation with my wife, but not about the cheating itself, but about how she hid it from me. Last night, I decided to speak with my wife. I waited until we were both chilling, and called her to our bedroom, saying I needed to talk. She tensed up and went with me, asked me what was wrong. We both sat on our bed, and I had to hold myself together not to break down in front of her. I said I heard when she spoke to her sister about the time she cheated when we started our relationship, yes, when we started being exclusive. I said I was hurt, a lot, but even more due to the fact that she hid it from me. I asked her why she did it, and why she never told me anything. She broke down crying in front of me. She said it was true, it happened right after we became exclusive. She said that us being friends at the time, and even having a friends with benefits phase made her fall in love with me pretty fast. At the time, she had some friends that kept encouraging her to stay away from me, because she was getting too much attached, and too fast, and she needed to wait and have more fun before going all in into another relationship. When I asked her to be my girlfriend, she said she really wanted to be together with me, so she said yes. But her being her words, naive idiot at the time, she let herself get influenced by those friends, and in one of those night outs, she got drunk and ended hooking up making out with the guy that worked with her in the lab. She said it was just a hookup make out and nothing sexual happened, and she swore she exaggerated the story to her sister, but they did not have sex. She said she regretted it immediately, and left the party for her home and cried all night. I said it was irrelevant if they had sex or not, it was the fact that she kept this hidden from me that hurts the most. She cried again, and said it was wrong of her, it was a stupid mistake, she just wanted to pretend it never happened. Said she was afraid I was going to leave her for something so stupid and did not have the courage to tell me. She swore she loved me, and never felt anything for anyone else after we got together. Then she begged for me to forgive her, again saying it was a stupid mistake of a young and naive girl who has gotten out of a bad relationship and let herself be influenced by bad friends. I felt she was honest, and I mean it. I believe every word of her, and I feel she genuinely regrets what has happened. I said I forgive her, but I wouldn't be able to celebrate the date of our start again. So we decided to pick another date. We now celebrate our marriage anniversary, and the date we moved in together. She deflated like a balloon after we spoke. She said it was tormenting her to keep this secret, and I'm not gonna lie and say this situation did not leave a mark on our relationship, it did, things definitely shifted, but not in a, we need to end, kind of way. But talking to her really did me good, and I love her more than anything in my life. Even though it hurt me, I am now certain we will both be able to navigate this together. Edit: people are getting crazy over my bad English again. Apparently, hookup means having sex, and I didn't know that. I meant, make out. Stories number 11. My boyfriend, 30M, has a close female friend, 34F, who blatantly dislikes me, 29F, and makes no secret of it. I've reached a stage where it's her or me. How can I confront my BF? I don't know if I'm being wildly unreasonable and jealous over this, so I need some outside opinions. I, 29F, have been with my BF, 30M, for 3 years, and we share an apartment. He has a female friend, Nell, 34F, and they were friends for years before I came along. I had no issue with their closeness. I have male friends and knew I'd be a hypocrite to leap to judgments, but at this point I feel I'm justified in thinking the way I do about her. The first time I met her, it was extremely obvious Nell didn't like me. She came into the bar all excited to see my BF, before noticing me. Her entire demeanor changed, she shook my hand and dug her nails into my skin, before ignoring me the rest of the night. She even seemed upset at one point that I took the seat beside my BF, and quietly left halfway through the evening without saying goodbye. So it's safe to say my first impression of her wasn't good, but I tried to reason with myself that not everyone gets along, and I don't need to be friends with my BF's friends. However, as time passed it became really clear Nell's attitude towards me wasn't improving. She had a way of openly mocking me in front of groups of people, making side comments or loudly joking about my voice or appearance. My BF would stand there and say nothing, and after the fact when I asked him about it, he'd say he hadn't noticed. She'd also make a show of hugging him hello and goodbye and not me. She would mix that kind of stuff in with smiles and basic politeness, so it was tough to articulate exactly what she'd done. I felt very much like I was back in high school. From that point on, I basically decided I didn't need to have someone like that in my life, so just stopped going to things she was at. I haven't seen her in about a year. My BF still sees her regularly and they text often. I'm now at the stage where I fully believe they've either dated in the past, or have something going on now. I've tried gently bringing this up, but he denies they ever dated and makes me feel like I'm being jealous and bitter by asking. I end up suppressing those feelings, before something brings them up again. I've reached the end of my tether with it. The final straw for me came the other day, when my BF left his phone open and I saw a text exchange between the two. Nell had sent him a heart emoji, and my BF had written something about how he was thinking of her. I know I should have said something then and there, but I felt numb and decided to go to bed. I'm trying to work out how to handle this. Is it possible nothing's going on here? It's something I've tried arguing in my head, but then something else pops up that makes me doubt it. Maybe friends do just send hearts, and I'm making this up because I don't care for Nell. I don't want that to be the case. I'm basically at a point where I feel he either has to tell me the truth and restrict contact with Nell, or else I don't feel like I can maintain the relationship. I feel constantly disrespected, and I want something to change but don't know how to go about it. Any advice would be so welcomed. TLDR, my BF's female friend dislikes me and I suspect their closeness might indicate something more than that. How do I tell my BF it's either her or me? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, to be honest, I don't think there is a point in giving him an ultimatum, as I don't think he will choose you. Or if he did, he would resent you for it and make you feel even more crazy. He never notice how Nell treats you, and never calls her out on it. When you point it out, he makes you feel like you're jealous and crazy, instead of working with you and implementing healthy boundaries. You have to repress your feelings about their relationship, because of how he makes you feel whenever you try to bring it up. That is not a partner that will choose you, because he never has. He chooses Nell. Whenever Nell hurt your feelings, he chose to endorse her actions by not standing up for you. Whenever you point something out, he chose to protect Nell and make you feel like you were jealous and bitter. He has always been in her corner, endorsing and enforcing her actions, even when she is hurting your feelings. I would personally skip the ultimatum and just leave. Commenter 2, this, all of it. OP, it is best to start making an exit strategy, and looking for a way to get out. Find a new place to live, and move out, and break up. He will never choose you. He has shown you constantly who he chooses. Any man who allows someone to treat their partner like that and then gaslights their partner isn't a man worth having. Also go with your gut, it is never wrong. If it is telling you that there is something going on, believe it. Don't confront him, just leave, save yourself the gaslighting and excuses and argue and leave while he is out somewhere or at work. Block him and her and then leave a note stating that now he is free to be with the woman he really wants to be with. Reply, I'm sad, but I agree with this take. I doubt anything is going to change. Commenter 3, fine, they haven't dated. But have they hooked up? Reply, that's what I wonder. I am aware they used to go out for drinks, just the two of them, before I was in the picture. I know that isn't immediately indicative of them hooking up, but my BF ended up taking me to a bar he'd gone to with Nell, and it was romantic. Fancy with dim lights and stuff, not a casual bar. You know, the more I articulate this rather than keep it bottled up, the more I think I've been stupid in not seeing it sooner. Update. First, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone for the kind comments. I didn't expect so many responses and I appreciate them all. I wanted to provide everyone with an update, because a lot has happened. A few days ago, after a lot of tearful soul searching, I decided the best thing for me would be to walk away from the relationship. I sat my BF down and talked to him about it. I explained that I always felt like the third wheel in my own relationship, and that for my own happiness, I didn't want to be in a relationship that made me feel that way anymore. I gave examples to him that I did in my original post, such as his lack of boundaries with Nell, and his disinterest in standing up for me whenever she mocked me. I also said my trust in him had been eroded to the point where I felt unsure of what I really was to him. I told him I still cared about him and wanted him to be happy, but that I wanted to be happy too. My BF sat silently for a while, before asking, so, you're jealous of Nell? I felt like he'd barely processed anything I just said, and when I tried clarifying, he got defensive and told me he was allowed female friends. I could tell he wanted to turn it into an argument, and since my mind was already made up and I'd said what I wanted, I ended the conversation and he played a computer game and acted like I wasn't there as I packed my things and left. I've been staying with my best friend, who is amazing and always so supportive. We're actually looking into sharing a place officially. I burst into tears on her doorstep and we hugged it out, before having a movie night with a pizza and some wine. It felt really therapeutic, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. My family have been amazing too, rallying round and taking me out for little meals and stuff. I even got 1 or 2 sweet messages from my BF's friends, saying they were sorry and that they fully understood my point of view, which is interesting. I imagined that would be the end of it, but the next morning I woke up to messages from a number I didn't know. It was Nell. I honestly didn't think she'd contact me, so to see walls and walls of text in my inbox was a shock. Let me run down some of the things she said. She repeatedly insisted that she never bullied me, and said she had no idea where that came from. She said I'd always seemed cold towards her, so tried to make little jokes to break the ice. Openly mocking someone is an interesting method, but I digress. Lastly, she told me I was making things up by suggesting she ever had a thing with my ex, they were just friends. She finished with a passive-aggressive apology that I'd ruined my own relationship by being jealous and listening to voices in my head. I didn't respond to her venom or try to get the last word. I know she wanted to repeat her tried and true method of hitting out at me and enjoying my reaction, so I didn't give her one. I've been focusing on other things to start building my self-esteem and happiness back. My ex has not tried to contact me since I left and I'm glad. Frankly, I think him and Nell are perfect for each other. I'm well and truly done with this, and I'm so excited for new things in my life. My friend and I are making arrangements to officially have a place together, and I actually got promoted at work today. I feel like it was a little hug from the universe. In all, things are looking bright. So to end things, I want to thank everyone again for the messages. I think hearing your opinions, as well as getting all my thoughts out in a post are what really opened my eyes and allowed me to leave. I finally feel I'm making myself the priority, feels pretty great. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you did the right thing by not responding to her. It was rather creeper move for him to give her your phone number to message in the first place. Go out and do the things that make you happy. Reply, yeah, the only way she would have got it is through him. My best friend even suggested they probably wrote those texts together. I feel like they both just wanted to turn it into a big argument and play the victim, so I'm glad I didn't pursue that with them. I don't care and just want to be happy. Thank you. Commenter 2, literally the best thing you could do was let her twist in the wind after those texts, and you did it. Good for you. Those two deserve nothing from you. Reply, thank you. Yep, I imagine her reeling that she didn't get a single word in response to her mountains of text. Commenter 3, I can't believe his only response was, so you're jealous of Nell. Tells you everything you needed to know by the way he reacted in that conversation. Reply, that's so true. He proved my point without even realizing it. Stories number 12. How do I, 49F, move forward after my daughter, 22F, hid her father's affair from me for 2 years? I, 49F, was married to my ex-husband, Derek, 49M, for 20 years before divorcing a few months ago. We have 2 kids, a daughter, 22F, and a son, 17M. I found out Derek was having a 2-year affair, and my world was shattered. But what hurt almost as much was discovering that my daughter had known about it the whole time. She actively hid it from me for 2 years, lied, covered for him, and never once tried to warn me. When I found out, I was devastated, not just by my husband's betrayal, but by my daughter's choice to keep it from me. She was young at the time, and I understand it was a difficult position for her, but the pain was immense. I never confronted her directly, thinking it might affect her as she was about to go off to college. I just told her I knew, that I understood, and tried to move on. But after she left, I found myself distancing myself from her more and more. It wasn't planned, I just needed space to heal, and that meant not calling her as often or reaching out as much. Fast forward a year and a half, and I've started dating someone, 41M, who has a 10-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Recently, we all went to Disney together, and he posted a family photo of us on social media. For context, my boyfriend covered all the expenses as a gift for his daughter's birthday, wanting to make it special for her. Along with my son and me, she chose her 2 cousins to come along, making it a big family-style trip that was all about her. My daughter must have seen it because she didn't call me for over a month afterward, and honestly, I wasn't as affected by her absence as I would have been before. I still love her, but every interaction brings up that pain. Out of nowhere, she called me in tears. She was screaming, saying I obviously hadn't forgiven her and that I'd shut her out on purpose. She accused me of replacing her with my boyfriend and his daughter. She kept saying, it was a long time ago, I was a kid, I didn't mean to hurt you. She said she thought she was doing the right thing by staying quiet, that she didn't know how to tell me, and that she was terrified of breaking our family apart. She asked me if I'd ever forgive her or if I'd moved on for good. I tried to tell her that I loved her and never wanted to replace her, but she just kept pushing that I should get over it by now, and that I'd abandoned her for this new life. To top it off, my ex-husband later called me, furious, accusing me of leaving my daughter for a younger man and a new family. He even had the nerve to call me selfish for moving on. Ironically, his girlfriend is 30, and he's the one who blew up our family with his affair. It's like no one understands that I'm still trying to recover from years of betrayal, and it feels like I'm expected to just let it go, as if my pain doesn't matter. My son, who lives with me, found out about his sister hiding the affair after overhearing my husband's mom and sister talking. He was crushed and hasn't forgiven her either, and they've barely spoken since. I never wanted him to know, but it feels like the entire family is divided now, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm in therapy, but I still feel lost. Part of me knows she was young and didn't know how to handle it, but another part of me feels like she chose him over me. I love my daughter, but every time we talk, that hurt resurfaces. I don't know if I'm failing as a mother or if I'm protecting myself. I feel like I've emotionally checked out, and I don't know how to reconnect. Edit, just to clarify, my divorce actually happened a few months ago, not 3 years ago as I originally mentioned. My sister, who is a bit of a scatterbrain, encouraged me to post here and typed out much of it for me. In the process, she got the timeline wrong, and I didn't catch it before posting. My daughter was 17 when she found out about the affair. She had a lot going on at the time, including having to change schools due to some personal issues and repeating a year. So, when I found out, it was less than 2 years ago. I hope this clears up the confusion. Relevant comments. Has OOP's daughter ever apologized for what she did to her? And limit contact with her children's father. Reply, thank you for your kind words and support. Honestly, my daughter's apology has been complicated. She did express that she was sorry, but it often came with explanations of how difficult it was for her, how she was stuck between her father and me. I can understand that she was young and in an impossible situation, but it still feels like she's brushing aside the depth of the hurt. Sometimes it seems like she doesn't fully understand why it's so painful for me, and that part has been hard to get past. As for my ex, yes, I've definitely limited contact with him to what's necessary for our son. My son mostly stays with me, so that call was a bit unexpected. We rarely speak directly, and when we do, it's usually through our lawyers. Our divorce was only finalized a few months ago, so I'm still adjusting to all the boundaries and just trying to protect my peace. He doesn't deserve any extra energy or emotional space in my life, and I'm doing my best to keep it that way. OOP clarifies up on the timeline of the affair. Reply, to clarify, my daughter was 17 when she first found out about the affair, but I didn't learn about it until she was 19. Before that, she had a lot of personal struggles, including a serious incident that led to her having to change high schools. This all happened before she found out about the affair, and by the time I learned the truth, she was dealing with the fallout of those issues. I didn't want to burden her further, so I chose not to confront her about the affair. Actually, the divorce was finalized only a few months ago, not 3 years ago. I know the timeline got a bit mixed up. My sister is a bit of a scatterbrain, but she's always been my biggest support. She insisted I post this on Reddit and even typed it out for me, though I should have double-checked the details before sharing. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. I was honestly overwhelmed by the sheer number of replies. I tried my best to read through as many as I could, and some of the advice was hard to hear, but necessary. It's been a lot to take in, but one comment really stayed with me. Someone mentioned how fragile life is and how little time we really have with the people we love. That struck me deeply. I've been so consumed by pain and anger that I forgot to think about what I'd want my relationship with my daughter to look like in the long run. If something were to happen tomorrow, would I be okay with leaving things as they are? That thought stayed with me, and within a few days, I decided to contact my daughter. I told her I wanted us to talk, not to rehash the past or point fingers, but to figure out how we could move forward. She was hesitant at first, which I completely understand. We had the conversation a few nights ago, and while it wasn't easy, I'm grateful she was willing to open up. There were tense moments, and I won't lie, it was hard to hear some of what she said. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were finally addressing what had been festering between us. We talked about what had happened, and I finally asked her for the truth about everything. When I first discovered her father's affair, he told me that she had always known about it. In fact, he claimed she had been his ally, hiding things from me multiple times. He even said that she disliked me and was on his side. Hearing that from him was devastating. I couldn't believe my daughter would do something like that or feel that way about me. The way I found out about the affair was awful, and the idea that my daughter had played any part in it, even unknowingly, made it so much worse. At first, she was very reluctant to talk about it, but eventually, she opened up and started sharing everything, including what led up to her actions. A few months before discovering the affair, she had been involved in a difficult situation at her high school. Without going into specifics, it was a matter where her actions led to serious consequences. The school had a zero-tolerance policy, and as a result, she was expelled. She had to transfer to a new school and repeat the year. On top of that, her grades took a hit, and she was finding it challenging to get back on track. When it happened, I felt it was important for her to face the full weight of her actions and take responsibility for what she had done. I grounded her and took away her electronics, hoping the consequences would help her reflect and grow. I wanted her to understand the gravity of the situation and emerge from it as a better person. Her father, however, completely disagreed with my approach. He felt I was being too harsh, insisting that she had already learned her lesson and needed support rather than punishment. The tension in our household became unbearable. Between my frustration with him and my disappointment in her actions, I found it harder and harder to communicate properly with her. There were constant fights, arguments that seemed to erupt over everything and nothing at the same time. It wasn't just them. Therapy over the past year helped me realize that I played a part too. My hurt and frustration often came out as anger, and instead of addressing things calmly, I let my emotions take control. I was constantly angry and frustrated, and my mood probably created an even more tense and uncomfortable environment for everyone. So, when she found out about his affair shortly after, she was angry at me and still reeling from everything that had happened. She admitted that part of her decision to stay quiet was fueled by a desire to get back at me. She felt like keeping the secret was her way of taking revenge, though she now realizes how wrong that was. She also told me she had tried to get her father to come clean, but he discouraged her from doing so, telling her that I had already been disappointed enough by her situation and that she shouldn't make things worse. Feeling trapped, she lied and kept lying, hoping it would somehow blow over without me finding out. Hearing this from her was heartbreaking. It didn't justify what she did, but it helped me understand her perspective. Knowing her father pressured her to keep his secret makes my anger toward him even stronger. He broke everything with his affair and then used our daughter to cover for him, making her feel trapped and responsible for his lies. I hate what he put her through. To be honest, our marriage was already going through a rough patch at the time, and we likely would have ended up divorcing anyway. However, it's one thing to fail as a husband, but to fail so completely as a parent is unforgivable. They always had a good relationship, and I never wanted to ruin that for her, even when I was angry. But seeing how he used her in his lies has only deepened my resentment. I told her that I've been hurt, not just by her actions, but by how deeply they shook my trust in her. At the same time, I reminded her that I love her, and I always will. I said that while I can't change the past, I want to rebuild our relationship. We agreed to take things one step at a time. I suggested we try online therapy together, and while she was hesitant at first, she agreed. She's already been seeing a therapist on her own and wasn't sure about opening up in a joint session, but I think she ultimately realized how much I want to make this work. I also brought up her brother. They've never had the closest relationship. He's always been more of a reserved, independent person, while she's more outgoing and emotional. There's been tension between them in the past, and ever since he overheard what happened with her hiding the affair, they've barely spoken. I've tried to talk to him about maybe giving her another chance, even when I wasn't on the best of terms with her. I really want them to have a good relationship, but I also don't want to push him too much. He's his own person, and I don't want him to feel like I'm trying to force him into something he isn't ready for or doesn't want to do. He's allowed to make his own decisions, and if they need time apart to heal, I'll respect that. Someone mentioned the unrealistic standards we often hold women to, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't hold her to any impossible standard just because she's a woman. She is the light of my life, but sometimes, I realize I've shared everything in such a negative way because of how it all played out. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. I don't know exactly where I stand or what I'm feeling at times. I'm just moving through life like anyone else, doing the best I can. Thank you all again for your advice and for giving me the push I needed to start this conversation. It's not easy, but I'm hopeful we'll get through this, one step at a time. Comment. Reply, of course, I haven't come to terms with it. You want to give me a recap? Let me give you a fucking recap. My daughter participated in an inexcusable situation, a situation that pushed another girl so far that she almost did something irreversible. Almost destroyed herself. The other girl's parents filed a complaint against the school, and my daughter admitted she was to blame. Admitted it and still made excuses for herself. So yes, I punished her. What the hell else was I supposed to do? Sweep it under the rug? Pretend it didn't happen? My husband sided with her. Said she'd been through enough. She'd been expelled, as if that was enough. She threw tantrums, acted like a victim, and kept saying she'd learned her lesson. I did everything a parent is supposed to do. I tried to be the best possible mother I could in that situation. Then, I found out my husband was cheating on me. Not just cheating, cheating in the most gut-wrenching, humiliating way possible. And what did he say when I confronted him? That my daughter had known all along. That she'd helped him keep his secret. And on top of that, he told me she didn't even like me. You want to talk about poison? That's poison. Hearing that from someone you love. Knowing your own child had sided against you in something so vile. But even then, I didn't scream at her. I didn't lash out. I distanced myself, yes, but only because I didn't want to cause more damage. Was I supposed to act like everything was okay? Was I supposed to just hug her and pretend none of this had happened? Everything was not okay, but I'm trying now. I'm trying my level best to fix this situation. My son doesn't want me to, he thinks she's toxic and tells me to stay away from her. But I told him no. She's my daughter, and I'm going to try. And yet here you all are, passing your random judgments. Like I haven't been breaking my back trying to hold this family together. I didn't ask for your judgment. I was giving an update. But fine. Screw you. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, please let go of the idea of your son and daughter being close. Don't push for it. Don't ask for it. Just let it go. People choose who they want to engage with, and quite frankly, if I were your son I would not want to be around your daughter either. They won't be close and you need to be okay with that. Reply, honestly, I'm coming to terms with it. They have a decent age gap, and their personalities are very different, which often causes friction. Even before her concealment of the affair came to light, they weren't close. There are several reasons for it, and I don't want to paint anyone in a bad light, but it's been like this for some time now. Right now, I'm trying to let my son be his own person and respect his feelings. I don't want to pressure him into prioritizing this relationship. I've also put him in therapy to help him process everything. He's a bit apathetic about the situation, not towards me, but towards his sister. He just doesn't care anymore, which in some ways feels worse. But this is where things stand for now, and we don't know what might happen in the future. I'm learning to take it one day at a time. Commenter 2, your ex used your daughter's guilt about whatever happened in school as a weapon to manipulate her into staying quiet about his affair to avoid hurting you any more than her actions already had. She was a 17-year-old child being manipulated by her own father. This is entirely, 100% on him. He basically told her that if she disclosed his affair, she would be responsible for your further pain and the breakup of your family. What child wouldn't fall into this trap? I hope you can find it in your heart to let this go because she bears no responsibility here. Commenter 3, your daughter needs to stop running to your ex and complaining about you. If she's really serious about regretting her actions, she would use her brain and realize who is the actual person at fault, her father. The part where you said women always hold impossible standards with other women, she's doing the same too. She's fine with her dad cheating and having a new family, but she gets angry when you do. Definitely needs therapy. New updates. Therapy with my daughter is breaking me. I don't even know how to start. My relationship with my daughter has always been difficult, but everything truly shattered when I found out she had hidden her father's affair from me. She knew what he was doing, and she didn't tell me. When the truth came out, not just about his betrayal, but about her secrecy, it broke something inside me that I haven't been able to repair. Even before the secrecy of her relationship with her father came to light, we weren't in a good place. We had been constantly fighting. Years ago, there was an incident at her school that changed everything. She had bullied another child in a way that I can only describe as horrifying, so bad that it led to her removal from the school. I had been through something similar in my childhood, but from the other side. I was the victim. What she did brought back memories I thought I had buried, horrible ones I still haven't fully dealt with. I might have overcorrected in her punishment. Maybe I went too far. But I wanted her to understand what she had done was not just wrong, it was extremely wrong. I took away her electronics because that was the medium she had used to fuel the bullying. Everything she did online was monitored. She could only use electronics for homework, and even that was supervised. I made her volunteer at places where she could see the impact of her actions. I even put her in therapy. I did everything I thought was necessary to help her, to make her grow into a better person. But no matter what I did, the fighting continued. She resented me for taking those steps, even though I was trying to protect her and guide her toward doing better. And then the situation with her father came to light. When I found out she had been hiding his affair from me, it broke something between us. I never stopped loving her, I couldn't, but I felt so deeply betrayed. I didn't confront her, I didn't even know how to. Every time I thought about saying something, I froze. Instead, I distanced myself in the ways that mattered most. I still spoke to her. I still picked up the phone when she called, attended her events, and supported her financially. I never abandoned her in those ways, but I couldn't be there for her emotionally like I should have. Every time I looked at her, the pain came rushing back. I wanted to fix things, to be the mother she needed, but I didn't know how to be close to her without falling apart. It was so fucked up, and I know I failed her in pulling away, but I just couldn't handle it. Now, after all this time, we're in therapy together, trying to rebuild what's left of our relationship. I don't know if it's helping or hurting. The first session was fine, awkward, but manageable. The second session? It felt like being gutted. She spent the entire time blaming me for everything. She said I ruined her childhood. She brought up the punishment from years ago, saying I overreacted and destroyed her life. She refuses to acknowledge the harm she caused back then, or the pain she inflicted on that other child. She also refuses to see what her father did to me. She paints him as some perfect, amazing person, while I'm the villain in her story. Does she not see how he manipulated me? How he broke our family? He manipulated her too, making her hide everything in the first place. She said she was just protecting him, but how could she not see the truth? Yes, our marriage wasn't perfect. We married for all the wrong reasons and were heading for divorce anyway, but how is everything my fault? I've spent months trying to find peace. I've worked so hard to rebuild myself, to find some kind of balance. And now therapy feels like it's tearing all of that apart. I'm exhausted. Mentally. Emotionally. Physically. I feel like I'm breaking my back trying to fix this relationship, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to keep going. I love her. She's my daughter, my blood. I'll never stop loving her. But I feel like no matter what I do, it's never enough. Why isn't this working? Why can't I make things right? I've tried everything I can think of, and yet nothing is changing. Is it me? Am I truly that terrible of a mother? Am I really the villain in all of this? I just don't understand. How did we end up here? I've spent so many years trying to be the best mother I could, trying to protect her, to help her grow. But every step I take feels like it makes things worse. I know I've made mistakes, God, I know that, but is this relationship really beyond repair? Is she better off without me? Why does she still refuse to see what he did? How could she not see the manipulation? Maybe I was too harsh, too distant, but why does it feel like no matter what I do, it's never enough for her? I've given everything, but it's like nothing matters to her. I just feel so lost. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I've ruined everything. Maybe I'm the cause of all this pain. She sees me as the enemy, and maybe that's all I am to her now. A constant reminder of everything she hates. I'm breaking. I'm so fucking broken, and I don't know how to fix this anymore. I don't even know where to go from here. Am I supposed to just keep fighting, keep giving? Or should I just let go? I'm so tired. So fucking tired. I can't breathe through this. It's suffocating. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, maybe next session, you return the favor. List her failures. Talk about the harm she did, specifically to that classmate. Dump that hurt on her. It might not have the desired effect, but your relationship will never be right the way it is. You resent each other. Forgiveness can only happen when hurts are acknowledged. What is your therapist doing to facilitate this mess? Reply, she wants us to air out all our differences, starting from childhood and moving forward from there. My daughter and I have already started, and a lot of it has been very hurtful. I haven't been able to sleep properly for the past couple of nights. It's really early here right now, and I work longish hours, so this hasn't been the best time for me. That said, I'll give this therapist some time. She seems great so far, at least up until now. If it really doesn't work out in the long run, then we'll consider changing her. For now, I'll just try to push through. I'll try to say my piece to her in the next session. It's really hard to say these things to her because, at the end of the day, she's my child. But I know I have to do it, and I will. Thank you again for your thoughts. Commenter 2, why doesn't her father have primary or full custody? Seriously though, some people are just bad apples, and having a blood relationship to them doesn't magically counteract deep-rooted awfulness. And maybe you're an awful person too, but you seem to be showing some level of self-awareness and accountability, so I'm more inclined to believe you weren't the primary problem in the relationship. Sounds like ex-husband and daughter deserve each other, and you should focus on limiting contact. Focus on yourself and what you need to do to be a person and live a life you aren't ashamed of. Abandoning your family is only a shameful act if they didn't work so hard to drive you away. Reply, she was already an adult and leaving for college when all of this happened, so custody was never an issue with her. I also have a son, and he didn't want to live with his father. I respected his decision. I got custody, while his father had visitation every other weekend. He tried to exercise that visitation, but my son is a very obstinate person. It's not always consistent, sometimes things seem great, and other times they seem bad. I try to stay out of his relationship with his father unless he wants to talk to me about issues. I've tried to explain that his relationship with his father is separate from mine, that his father could be a good dad even if he was a bad husband to me. But ultimately, my son is his own person, and I'm not going to push him into something he doesn't want. I want to be in his corner and support him no matter what. So, that's where things stand. Final update. Hey everyone, I wasn't planning on posting again, but I've had a few messages asking for an update, so I figured I'd just share this here and leave it at that. I'm not looking for advice anymore, and I'm definitely not looking for judgment. Just wanted to close the loop. My daughter decided to stop therapy. She said it wasn't helping, and I could tell she didn't really want to be there anymore. I didn't fight her on it. You can't force someone to heal, and trying to do that only pushed us further apart. We're still in contact, but it's surface level now. And in some ways, that's better. There's less tension, fewer fights. I've realized you can't really heal with someone who refuses to take accountability for their actions. We're both still in individual therapy though, so that's something. Maybe one day we'll meet in the middle. Or maybe we won't. I've come to accept that things might not ever fully heal between us. It still hurts, but I can live with it. My door is always open to her, she knows that. On a brighter note, my boyfriend and I are planning to move in together, and it feels like the right next step. We're both excited about it. And my son got into an amazing college. I'm incredibly proud of him. He's worked so hard, and seeing him achieve this is honestly one of the proudest moments of my life. Anyway, that's where things are. Thank you to everyone who showed me kindness along the way. This will be my last update. I'm ready to let this chapter rest and just focus on what's ahead. Take care. Stories number 13. AIO My coworker harasses me about my masculinity and DM'd my wife. I'm currently dealing with a work situation that I, 28M, need advice on. Before work I go to the gym about every other day. I'm hardly shredded but I've gone enough that you can see my muscles when I come into work in short sleeves. I wouldn't describe myself as a gym bro or a gym rat, I really just go for my overall health. Anyways, I work in an office with maybe 25 to 30 people that work there. We mainly do business-to-business sales and supply, not really relevant to the story. Anyway, I get to work one day wearing a polo and a couple of girls and guys in the office were asking me if I had been working out recently and I told them that I had. It wasn't flirtatious or anything like that, I think they were just giving me a friendly compliment, plus I'm married, but as we're discussing me working out, my coworker Gary, 40SM, walks in. Gary is, a lot. He's one of those guys who constantly talks about how much he benches, his gains, and generally just tries to project this super intense, alpha male image. Which is annoying but none of my business really. This is where the problem starts. Someone asked me what my max bench was. I told them honestly, and Gary, who was lurking nearby, scoffed loudly. He then proceeded to tell me, in front of like 5 other coworkers, that my number, 170, was pathetic and that I clearly wasn't a real man or an alpha. He then went on a tirade about how men need to be strong and dominate, etc., etc. It was super uncomfortable that I tried to just laugh it off and change the subject, but it didn't work. Since then, it's gotten worse. Every single day, Gary makes some kind of comment. If I'm getting coffee, he'll ask if I'm strong enough to lift the pot. If I'm walking to my desk, he'll flex and ask if I'm inspired yet to hit the weights like a real man. I've tried ignoring him, giving him short answers, even politely telling him to knock it off. Nothing works. He just laughs and says I need to grow a thicker skin. Then, this is where I start to lose my shit a little. My wife, 27F, texted me a screenshot yesterday. It was a DM from Gary. It was a picture of him flexing in the mirror with some ridiculous caption about being a true alpha, and how real women know what's up. Summarizing, but you get the sentiment. He'd somehow found her on social media and sent her this unsolicited picture and message. I was beyond furious. I wanted to march over to his desk and punch him, but I knew that would only make things worse. I'm starting to dread coming to work. It's constant, it's demeaning, it's making me feel genuinely small and uncomfortable, and now he's involving my wife. Am I overreacting to this? Is this just typical guy banter that I'm not getting? Should I just suck it up and ignore him, or is this actually something worth addressing with HR? I feel like if I tell HR it might just add fuel to the fire. But if I come down to his level and respond violently, I'll lose my job. Update, I'm going to take this to HR tomorrow. Thank you guys for letting me know the severity of this. Gary, hey wife, do I know you? Gary, I work with, redacted, if you're looking for a real man let me know. He wouldn't know what to do with you. No idea how you're with such a weak man. Redacted picture of topless Gary. People tell OOP to go to HR and complain about Gary. Some of the comments. Do you think HR can do anything? I'm just worried they won't do anything and it'll only make it worse. I've never really gone to HR before. Do you know how to approach it? I think I've just let his whole thing about calling me weak get to my head. I'm just not into violence and I feel like that's what he's trying to provoke. I feel like maybe he had a crush on one of my female coworkers that was complimenting me and now is trying to embarrass me to impress them or something. That might not be a bad idea but I think some people have convinced me to go to HR now. How much Gary benches? He claims 235. He messaged her on IG. Update. Just wanted to update everybody after my last post. I ended up going to HR. I honestly didn't think HR would do much because Gary is a good employee in terms of performance but surprisingly they took my complaint very seriously and were in disbelief when I showed them the screenshot of the DM he sent to my wife. The next day, Gary was not at the office so I wasn't sure if they had fired him or if he was just on a suspension at first but our boss told us to let his clients know that he was out for the day if they call the office. So I assumed that meant he got suspended. He was back this morning. Usually he greets me with some kind of smart remark but today he was really quiet and seemed to be avoiding eye contact with me. When I went to grab some coffee out of the break room a little after that he came in there and asked if we could talk for a second. He proceeded to tell me that HR laid into him big time and they told him that if he pulled anything like that again, it would result in termination. He then proceeded to apologize to me for everything and said that as pathetic as it sounds he was just upset that nobody ever compliments him on going to the gym despite how much time he spends in the gym in his free time. He said it hurt that people acknowledged me when going to the gym wasn't as big of a deal for me as it was for him. He then asked for my forgiveness. I honestly felt kind of bad for him in that moment, it was really kind of pathetic but he did seem sorry so I told him I accepted his apology but if he ever messages my wife on anything again, he'll have a lot more to worry about than an HR complaint. He again apologized. I don't know if this situation is fully resolved given it's only been a half day but Gary has been quiet and not at all like himself. We'll see if this lasts but his apology felt genuine so hopefully this is the last update I'll have to give on this situation. Thank you to everybody that encouraged me to go to HR. There was a lot of people that pointed out that Gary must be dealing with a lot of insecurities and I think they were right. There's a few things I want to address that were questions in my last post. How did Gary have my wife's info? He found her Instagram, a lot of people thought he somehow got her number which wasn't the case. Is this a made-up story? No, if you look at my comment history you will see a screenshot of the Instagram DMs commented on my last post. It's so cartoonish that it sounds like fiction but believe me, this is what people who buy into the red pill bullshit are like. You'll probably encounter your own Gary at some point if you haven't already. Do I really only bench 170? When I said I benched 170, I meant that bench 4 sets of 12 at 170. I've never done a single rep max. Does Gary have a wife? No, from my understanding, Gary is divorced and has been single for a while. Some of the comments by OOP, she didn't respond to the DM, just sent the screenshot to me. She thinks Gary is a weirdo and doesn't think he'll be getting any woman anytime soon, let alone somebody else's wife. Why he benches 170 and not 175, because when I go up in weight I increase it by putting 5 pounds plates on each side, that's how I end up with awkward numbers sometimes. I don't think I can ever be friends after he hit up my wife but I can definitely be civil at work. I think people like them might really be dealing with loneliness and are scared people might reject them so they put up a wall. Stories number 14. Aita for flirting with another girl after my girlfriend introduced me as a friend. Me, 28M, girlfriend, 29F, have been together for more than 2 years. We recently moved city, and she has started working in a new place 3 months ago. 2 days ago was an after-work get-together event at a bar with her co-workers, and she forgot her phone charger at home and her battery was low. I went to give her the extra power bank we have at home, as her phone uses the old USB type. As I went to her table to give it to her, one of her colleagues asked her who I am. Before I could say anything, she replied, "This is my friend, my name." He agreed to lend me the charger. I was a bit taken aback, and looked to her and said, "Friend?" She just laughed and said, "You are so funny, thank you for this," and waved to me, as in implying goodbye. One of the other colleagues asked me that if I was free, I can also join them, and I said why not, and I could sense the annoyance on my girlfriend's face. People were drinking, some talked to me and asked me questions, made conversation, what do I do, where did I grow up, etc. I should mention at this point that my girlfriend and most of her colleagues there were Chinese, and I am Indian. This becomes relevant later. Whenever someone would ask me anything related to how I met my girlfriend, she would pipe up to answer in a way that wasn't untrue, but completely omits any romance, giving the impression that we were just old friends. This kept bothering me, and I will admit I was getting pretty angry. Then one of the colleagues, who initially asked who I was, pretty drunk now, said *GFS name never told us she had such a good-looking friend, and laughed. My GF also did a small polite laugh. I replied, I didn't know she had such a pretty colleague either, and winked at her, which made her laugh more, but my GF became visibly upset. Another colleague said to my GF, seems like you are an expert Cupid. My GF was turning red, and I was also feeling slightly uncomfortable, so after a bit more chit-chat I made an excuse and said I got to go. The colleague said I should get her number from my girlfriend, and then I left. Now, when she came back she refused to talk to me, and yesterday she angrily told me that I had, kind of, cheated on her, and hurt her badly. I replied that although what I did was hurtful, she also needs to own up that introducing me as, just a friend, was hurtful. She refuses to acknowledge it as wrong, saying that she is just socially awkward, and she thought that her colleagues might react weirdly to her dating an Indian guy, as they all are dating white or other Chinese people. Her reasoning is that it is a lot of explanation and questions regarding interracial dating, and she just wanted to avoid all that. I don't buy it. I feel she just wanted to hide the fact that she is dating me. We are at an impasse. I refuse to apologize till she sees that what she did was wrong, and she thinks she did not do anything wrong, and I was mean. Stories number 15. Aita for hiding my pregnancy from my sister. I, 28F, am over 3 months along, and I'm worried if I tell my sister, 21F, that she's going to try to get pregnant too, again. 2 years ago I had my first pregnancy. I announced it to my family at dinner and everyone was very happy and supportive of me. I've been with my BF, 34M, for 5 years now and it seemed like everything was falling into place for our Midwest life. But my sister is a narcissist, and saw how happy and excited everyone was for me and decided she wanted that for herself. She made it her mission to also get pregnant, while in college, with no job or place of her own. She got pregnant within the next 2 months while at school and expected everyone to also be excited. Obviously she got a different reaction and was really mad at everyone for not just accepting her irresponsible choice. She ended up dropping out. Fast forward to my emergency C-section where we fought to keep my baby alive in the NICU, only to pass away at 9 days. I don't want to get into the details of it, but obviously it was traumatic. And my sister's world completely changed from thinking we would be raising kids together. Her baby was born on time and healthy. And I hate to say but she's a terrible mother. She doesn't prioritize her child at all, doesn't even capture milestones or spend quality time with him, just dumps him on a family member for a few days so she can go out. To each their own, but it's extremely infuriating, considering how motherhood was ripped away from me and she doesn't have a maternal bone in her body. Now 2 years later, she's still in the same spot. No job, living with her mom, doesn't prioritize her child and didn't go back to school. He isn't speaking words and just grunting and is developmentally delayed. I see this and it makes me realize she didn't really want a kid, she just wanted that unconditional support from our family that they showed me. So now that I'm pregnant again, I really don't want to tell her. And my family has agreed with me not to tell her. I'm worried she's going to see that as an opportunity to get pregnant again because she's obsessed with attention whether it's negative or positive, and can't stand the spotlight on me. But I feel bad the further along I get, and the more people I tell, she's going to be extremely upset when she finds out. And if you know narcissistic rage, then you understand. I figured maybe I'd tell her this weekend finally, but she just posted on her story, going crazy this summer BC I'm manifesting a baby girl next year. Like HUH. You cannot keep a job, you don't even help your mom with rent and you want to have a second kid already? For what? You aren't even a good mother to your first. The father wants to take him for custody. Makes me want to shake her by the shoulders. Ugh. Now I know when I tell her she's definitely going to try it again. I rarely see her and we aren't technically that close, so I could hide this for as long as I wanted TBH. Aita. Or are my fears valid? Edit, I understand the concern for my nephew. My family is all for the father getting custody, my sister is the only one against it. We all see her for who she is, but she doesn't see anything wrong with her actions, he's only 2 right now. She doesn't think she's a bad mom. He and my sister both live with her mom, my stepmom, who is a school teacher. She does as much as she can to help him while also still trying to maintain her own life, but she doesn't want the entire responsibility of raising a child, and I'm sure that's understandable. Stories number 16. Aita for cutting all contact with my family because of a prank. So I have posted a story on here before and I got some pretty good advice, so please help. Here's what happened. I, 27F, have always had a complicated relationship with my family. They've always been the type of people who think any joke is fine as long as someone laughs, no matter who gets hurt. Over the years, I've tried to brush it off and not let it bother me too much, but this time, they crossed a line I can't ignore. Recently, I achieved something big in my life. I bought my first home after saving for years. It's something I worked incredibly hard for, sacrificing vacations, nights out, and basically anything extra to make it happen. I was beyond proud of myself and excited to finally have a place to call my own. Naturally, I wanted to share this milestone with my family, even though our relationship has always been rocky. A few weeks ago, we had a family dinner to celebrate my new home. Everything seemed fine at first. They congratulated me, asked about the house, and seemed genuinely happy for me. But halfway through the night, my brother, 30M, and sister, 25F, handed me an envelope. They said it was a surprise to help me with my house. I opened it, and inside was what looked like a legal notice stating that my house purchase had been cancelled because of a clerical error, and that it was now being sold to someone else. It even had an official-looking letterhead, my name, and details about the house. I was in complete shock. Everyone around the table started laughing, and my brother yelled, "Gotcha." Turns out, they had faked the letter and thought it would be hilarious to see my reaction. I burst into tears, which only made them laugh harder. They even recorded the whole thing on their phones to post on social media. When I finally managed to speak, I told them how cruel this was. Buying this house was the biggest thing I'd ever done, and they turned it into a joke at my expense. Their response? "You're so sensitive. It was just a prank. Lighten up." I left the dinner early, completely heartbroken. A few days later, I decided I'd had enough. This wasn't the first time they'd pulled a prank like this. Over the years, they've humiliated me countless times, once ruining a job interview outfit by accidentally spilling coffee on it, another time pretending to lose my dog just to see me panic. I cut off all contact. I didn't make a scene, I just stopped responding to messages, blocked them on social media, and declined invites to family events. Now, I'm getting guilt-tripping messages from extended family saying I'm being selfish and tearing the family apart. My mom even left me a voicemail crying about how much she misses me and begging me to come back. But I can't bring myself to forgive them. This prank felt like the final straw, and I don't see how I can trust them again. So, Reddit, Aita for cutting off my family over this prank. Top comment. Commenter 1. You're rightfully upset because it wasn't a prank. It was bullying. "It was just a joke" BS is something every bully does to justify humiliating people. They thought it would be fun to upset you on your big night and then take videos of it and post it on social media. And your mother is crying that she misses you. No, she had an opportunity there to rip them a new one about their behavior and about treating you with kindness and respect, and she thought it would be better to go along with the prank. You deserve better than this. I'm glad you finally decided to call an end to their bullying. Don't let them or any extended family members pressure you into doing anything you don't want to do. I'm sorry that they couldn't just be happy for you for your achievement. Congratulations on your new home. Wait to add, thank you for the kind awards. I just hope OP gets some measure of peace from these people. She has earned it. Updated. After I went no contact with my family, I thought they'd eventually accept my decision and move on, but that hasn't been the case. For the past few weeks, my brother and sister have been trying to get me to see the funny side of their prank. They've shown up at my house uninvited multiple times, banging on the door and demanding to talk to me. At first, I ignored them, but it became clear they weren't going to stop. One evening, I caught them standing outside my house with their phones out, recording themselves while yelling things like, "She can't take a joke," and "Let's see how long she can hide." It felt more like harassment than an attempt to reconcile. The final straw came when I discovered my car had been egged overnight, and my security camera caught my brother and sister doing it. I confronted them through text, telling them they'd crossed a line and needed to stop. Their response? "You're so dramatic. You're going to laugh about this one day." At this point, I realized I couldn't handle this on my own. I went to the police and filed a report for harassment. They took my statement, reviewed the footage from my security camera, and agreed that this behavior was unacceptable. My siblings were contacted and warned to stay away from me. Their reaction? More mocking messages, calling me a snitch and accusing me of tearing the family apart. Some of my extended family members are siding with them, saying I should have just talked it out instead of involving the police. But others, especially those who've seen the footage, are horrified and fully support my decision. I feel a mix of relief and sadness. It's hard to accept that my own family could treat me this way, but I also feel safer knowing I've taken steps to protect myself. I'm focusing on building a new life in my home and surrounding myself with people who respect and support me. To anyone out there struggling with toxic family dynamics, you're not alone, and it's okay to set boundaries to protect your peace. Thank you for giving me the strength to stand up for myself. Red Heart, new update. I know I haven't updated in a while, and honestly, it's because dealing with all of this has been exhausting. Even after filing the police report, my brother and sister wouldn't let up. I wanted to believe they'd eventually get bored and move on, but instead, they doubled down. The mocking messages didn't stop. They even bragged about the warning they received, treating it like a joke. My extended family was split. Some still told me I was overreacting, while others admitted they were disturbed by my siblings' behavior. Then, things escalated. My security cameras caught them trespassing on my property again, this time leaving a mess of toilet paper and shaving cream all over my driveway. That was the final straw. I went back to the police and provided the new footage, showing that they had ignored the warning. This time, I filed for a restraining order. I had more than enough evidence to prove that their behavior was escalating, and after presenting everything: security footage, text messages, and police reports, the judge granted it. They were legally ordered to stay away from me, my home, and my workplace. At first, they acted like it was a joke. But when they realized I wasn't playing their game anymore, the harassment finally stopped. The restraining order forced them to keep their distance, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Some family members still don't understand why I had to take things this far, but I don't need their approval. I did what I had to do to protect myself. My home is now a place of peace, not anxiety. My phone is quiet. My life is my own again. To anyone dealing with toxic family members who refuse to respect your boundaries, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. You are not obligated to tolerate mistreatment just because it comes from family. Your safety and well-being come first always, and if they want to call me a snitch for defending myself, so be it. I'd rather be a snitch than a doormat. Stay strong. Red Heart, stories number 17. Aita for not telling my roommates and sisters I am the owner. I, 33F, bought my home right before the pandemic. The world shut down and I shut into my remote work with the solitude and comfort of a natural introvert. The house was extra large and I only really could afford it because the family selling was in need of a quick sell. The house has a finished attic and basement, which were easily converted into not so many apartments. The basement has its own entry point and also connects into the main house. There are 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and the master room has a walk-in closet. During the pandemic, my sister both were hit hard and quickly needed to downsize as their own roommates moved back home. My sisters, 25F and 27F, and I do not have such a luxury, so I offered them rooms at below market rate and told them they needed to supply their own food. The rent was really to help with increase in bills. They were both still in school at the time but also working. This arrangement gave them more breathing room financially. Then, a girl they both knew was evicted from her home with her BF because the family they rented from needed the home back. I offered the basement at near market rate, though still a little under as I felt bad and it is a basement apartment. After that, a friend of a friend heard about my arrangement and asked if there was any room left. I gave him the attic apartment for another near market rent. Rental agreements were drafted up for each person. I explained the basic rules, the rent, and how long they would have if rent was not received. I told them to read it and return it to me when signed. I left them each with their own copy. I collect the rent the first Saturday of the month. They leave the name blank on the checks for me to fill out, and I always thought it was because they were afraid of misspelling my stupidly unique name and having the check bounce as a result. Apparently not. The issue: I still have one free room in the main part of the house, but I use it as my office and it locks up. My friend knows my sisters and they got to chatting up while out together. They bumped into each other during a day out. My sisters mentioned that extra room, and my friend has a cousin, 18F, who will be starting college in our city and asked if my landlord would rent it out to her. I brushed over the comment because I thought there was miscommunication and told her the room wasn't for rent as I use it for my at-home office. She asked if I was paying for the room and I told her, why would I pay for a room in a house I own? She got a little quiet, apologized for pushing and told me the struggle it's been to find a spot for her cousin. I told her all of my tenants are solid until December when renewals go out. I can offer her a spot if someone moves, but I stressed it was unlikely as everyone gets along, stays out of each other's business, and it works well for them. We dropped the topic. A few days ago my sisters asked me how the talk went and I said it was okay, but her cousin won't be moving in. They asked why and I explained to them the situation above. They suggested I move my office to my bedroom or the main room and stop paying rent for an extra room to save costs. When I asked what they meant, they said, well, you do pay rent for the extra space, right? No. I then asked if they knew I was the landlord and they were floored. They never actually read the agreements they have been signing. They went off on me about how I should have told them and that they shouldn't have to be paying rent to family. I told them the rent was to cover their increase in bills. I wasn't going to house them for free when they made enough to cover a fair share on a shared expense. If they would rather full market rent on the rooms they were currently in, I could arrange that come renewal. By now they could afford it with their jobs and having saved money on rent for 5 years. They called me an asshole for holding rent above their heads. This then leaked to the tenants as they talked about the issue to their friends in the basement. While their rent is more than just for bills, it is not the market rent value I could get out of the space despite them each having income and no family to support. They came to me to ask that I lower the rent, as if being friends with my sisters was reason enough as I was the landlord and not somebody they didn't actually know. The deal they had no longer seems in their favor, apparently. I told them they had until December to decide if they wanted a renewal because it was not going to be lowered. They are now acting like I am kicking them out, when all I said was now that they fully understand their position they needed to make a choice to stay as with current costs and annual adjustments as needed as was our agreement or begin the process of looking as rent prices have skyrocketed and it's much harder to find a place. The adjustments do not include knowing I am the landlord. My attic tenant asked if I was cleaning house and basically begged I don't kick him out. His family turned their back on him because of conflicting views. Personally, his views don't bother me. His family's though. Eesh. I explained it all in detail and he was like, wait, I always knew you were my landlord because it's in the rental agreement. But he also never put my name down because it's hard to spell. Now everyone is upset with me and I feel unwelcomed in my own home. Aita Reddit if I didn't renew one or all of their leases because of this hostility I feel. Edit. Word. Quick edit since I keep seeing a similar question. Our lives have been a mess of social services and foster care as children, all aging out at 18. I didn't go out of my way to tell them about my buying a house, partly out of guilt, and they came to me for leads on places to live in a time of need. The guilt comes from not taking them in when I had the opportunity at 18. I would have had to jump through massive loops and I did not feel prepared to care for myself, let alone a couple of kids I hardly knew since we had been separated often. We reconnected when they aged out and built from there. We also do not share the same last names as we each have different fathers. Aita for not telling my roommates and sisters I am the owner. Update. Hello everyone. I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to read my last post and offer up their advice, comments, thoughts, and judgment. I took some of the advice given and have taken that don't rent to family or friends again to heart. So I'm going to jump into the update. I'm going to try to break it down bit by bit before going into it all. Mr. Attic, I'm keeping him. I pulled him aside first and separately. I told him I would not be renewing the others' leases in December and asked if he would want to rent the basement for at market value. He turned it down, asking to keep the attic as he is comfortable there. I told him it would probably be in his best interest to let the others believe this is a whole house clean out so he doesn't get caught in the crossfire. He agreed and went out of his way to turn his social media to private. He also sent me screenshots of a group chat he had been added to. The group chat, my sisters and other pair of tenants started up a group chat to bitch about me being so uncompromising and greedy. They were coming up with ideas to not pay rent or to only pay in part. The basement tenants joked about one of them losing their job so they could ask for leniency since I was too stuck up to be kind to them about the rent. The harassment, my sisters and Mr.'s basement had told their friends, and the families of Mr.'s basement, about the rent, the lies, and my inability to consider outside perspective and need. I've had a steady stream of calls, DMs, texts, and posts directed at me since before I made my last post, which is what prompted me to post. I made my accounts private, disabled some of the messaging functions, and told the 4 of them to get this to stop before I got my lawyer involved. Spoiler, they didn't. So after taking a night to think about it, I brought the group together to have a discussion about the rent and situation. My sisters looked smug and Mr.'s basement kept sharing knowing looks. I told them bluntly I was not going to renew leases in December because their actions, attitudes, and lack of consideration has made me feel unvalued, humiliated by their family, and unwelcome in my own home. I told them if they found an apartment or place to go before December, I wouldn't charge them for breaking the lease, but if there was any damage anywhere, they would not get their security deposits back until the pricing out was settled. If there was more damage than their security deposit, they would be taken to court. I told them I was done being kind and understanding to people who thought so lowly of me. I also warned them I could and would break the leases myself if I felt the need, in which case they would have 30 days. It was immediate chaos. A lot of yelling, insults, and cursing. Even Mr. Attic, but he was yelling at the others for getting him kicked out when he didn't do anything. He made an epic show of storming up to the attic and slamming the door. He sent me laughing emojis and texted that he wasn't going to be able to keep a straight face a little later. I waited for them to stop yelling, and when they demanded what they would do, I set a stack of ads for apartments and houses for rent in the nearby area and said they would have to start looking now. I told my sisters I would help pay for their moving truck but told the basement tenants they would have to ask their families for help moving out. Mr. Basement picked up the stack of papers and his eyes went wide. He stared at me and asked if I was fucking serious. I told him the prices listed were not mine to judge, change, or deal with. I reminded him his current place was below market because I had a say in it. Market prices for one-bedrooms in the area are well over $1,500 a month, if he wants near his work and close enough to walk to stores and things. He currently has a two-bedroom for less than that. My sisters grabbed some of the papers and the 27-year-old started crying because she couldn't afford an apartment on her own. She told me about her student loans and credit card debt. I told her, too bad. I gave you a good deal out of kindness and you sent an army after me. I would have considered letting you stay if you hadn't been so nasty. I told all of them they could probably swing a two-bedroom between the four of them and got up and left. They refused to talk to me now. My sisters spent the night in the basement apartment and I could hear shrieks and crying if I walked by the door that leads down there. I feel a little bad, but I reread your comments to keep my sanity. As for if I want them out, I can give them 30 days notice since they are inside my own home. I checked and double-checked with the lawyer and this information had been in their rental contracts. If I do have to kick them, and they try to refuse to leave and drag it out in court, which they don't have the money for, I've been given some handy advice by a fellow landlord who had to remove his own brother. I can't remove them by force, but I can make living there entirely uncomfortable. Nothing stops me from taking doors off hinges or starting remodeling while their stuff is in the way. Nothing stops me from turning off the water or electric for their sections of the house during remodeling. Quick edit, just for remodeling purposes. It wouldn't be done to make them leave. But they can't stop my remodeling as squatters. It might seem like an asshole thing to do, but they would be the ones to start it, and I actually do want to repaint and do some adjustments. The reason I am leaning on evicting them by August is because the harassment has gotten so much worse now that there is an actual non-renewal happening. I'm leaving my phone on silent and collecting messages, voicemails, emails, and other things to hand off to my lawyer next week. I told them to call off their dogs and they haven't. I asked Mr. Attic if he knew anyone who would need a place and to let me know. He has a few friends from his community who seem interested, as they either live with roommates or family and want out. If anyone has any questions this quiet morning, I will try to answer them. Quick edit. I have cameras outside and in common rooms, facing the front and back doors, the hallways upstairs and the door leading to the basement. The tenants have access to the entry point. Ones like Mr. Attic has the hallway to his area, Mr.'s basement have the feed that leads to their door inside the main house, and they all have outside camera access. I'm thinking of cutting access to the outside cameras for them. They can't do anything to the feeds as they are guests in the system, so they can't delete anything, and my access automatically saves on extra external systems. I might just cut them all out of the system except Mr. Attic for peace of mind. Also, I keep seeing people ask about our family. There are no parents and no family from our side. My sisters have no relationships with their fathers or their families, mine have been killed due to his own actions, there is no sympathy for the likes of him, and his family shunned him, so they shunned me as well, and our mother is a cup of ash left at the funeral home. Stories number 18. I, 18F, am going to be quitting gymnastics, and my mother, 41F, is having a mental breakdown over it, because me doing it is her entire life. How do I deal with this, when it makes me feel guilty? I started gymnastics when I was 2 years old. It's my mother's obsession. She is from a former member of the Soviet Union, where it is very popular. I would say that was probably the thing she was the most excited about since I was born. She started stretching me when I was very young, running, resistance training, literally anything that might make me better at it than anyone else. And I am quite good at it. I don't want to sound full of myself, but I have won a lot of things. But I can't say I enjoy it very much. It isn't something that I'd willingly do for fun. But it is sort of the only thing my mother does. She was one of those parents that would stay through entire practices. It was really embarrassing, and only stopped when I was 16 maybe. She spent all her time stitching my leotards, taking me to practices, competitions, buying hair things. Her whole life is my gymnastics. I don't really think she has any hobbies. I turned 18 recently, and also finished school. Which I'm happy about. It's really boring. I will do my military service, and then I want to go to university. I want to be a doctor. I have had a lot of bone and muscle issues, and I would like to be able to help people with that. Plus being able to literally replace someone's joint in a way is really cool, and I want to do things like that. I know I will as well. The tests, etc., aren't too difficult. I'm really excited about all of it, and it's all what I have wanted to do. But my mother, she is kind of having a breakdown. I'm not a mental health expert, but she's always crying, yelling at me, and just being weird. She says she doesn't want me to leave, that I'm wasting all that she's done for me and it's going to be worthless, that I'm not talented enough at anything else, I don't appreciate her, I hate her, I'm going to get fat, all of those things. And she's always crying. It's really embarrassing and weird. She was never like this before. I don't really know what to do. Obviously I don't want to continue with gymnastics, but I feel kind of guilty about making her so distressed. And it's kind of hard to say no to her. I know what I want, but when she's so unhappy with it, it's kind of hard. Stories number 19. Aita for refusing to marry my cousin. Now before everyone freaks out, I'm from Pakistan. Cousin marriage is very normal here, and I would say it's especially so in my family. If possible I would like to get advice from brown people because the white people solutions like cut them off and going no contact are not an option at all. So I 22, female, was recently asked for my hand in marriage. My aunt, father's sister, brought a marriage proposal for me for her youngest son, 25, male. My family was absolutely ecstatic about it. I, however, not so much. A little background is that I actually dated this particular cousin when I was like in 10th grade, about 14 years old. Not my greatest moment, but at that time my brother had recently gotten married to another cousin of ours. They had been dating for like 9 years or something, so I was being a delusional idiot who thought she could have something similar. My family does not know anything about it till this day because they're very, very conservative about stuff like this, especially when it comes to daughters. We obviously broke up because he was starting to act like my literal father. He would get mad at me for talking to boys. I went to a co-education school, would constantly ask to check my phone and for my social media passwords. I had a lot of unsupervised access to internet from a young age, and was a little too mature for my age. I immediately ended the relationship and distanced myself from him, but now he sent his mother with a formal marriage proposal. My father was obviously ready to agree the moment they came over, but thankfully he decided to ask me for my opinion before giving an answer back. I refused because that guy was literally my ex, and had been kind of stalking me at family events and stuff since the breakup. Now I'm being guilt-tripped, emotionally blackmailed and literally threatened by my family for refusing. I'm so confused right now. Because I know that man would be an unbearable husband. He was a controlling boyfriend and he'd be worse as a husband. On top of that, my cousin is constantly messaging me and urging me to agree. He's making promises and whatnot, so I just want to know, Ida. Should I just give in and accept my fate because I literally cannot see any other way out of this? Mini update. My parents have agreed to sit down and talk today after dinner. It's currently 3:40 in the morning here. I've also gotten in contact with the woman who used to teach any Quran when I was little. She's still a friend of my mother and often visits. I've asked her to come and talk with my mother and get her to see things from the Islamic perspective. Wish me luck guys, I'm not sure what's going to happen now. I've also decided to talk with my cousin and try to explain to him why I don't want to marry him. Hopefully he'll agree to refuse this marriage as well, but the chances are low because he's an asshole. Some of the comments. My brothers have literally had cousin marriages. And they're all older than me by like 15 to 20 years. I've tried telling them that he's not a good person, but they've only replied that he'll change after getting married. Sons are treated like diamonds here in Pakistan, so that's not even surprising. I don't think I can do much really. I'm still in university, and heavily dependent on my family financially. And there's been a lot of blackmailing and guilt tripping. We're talking about I will unalive myself if you don't agree level threats. About children of cousin marriage having more genetic disorders. My parents and relatives are not that educated. They've only studied till the 10th grade, and that too in a small village's government school. So even though I've tried explaining these things to them, it's only resulted in the same answer. We've been having cousin marriages for years and nothing like this has happened before. Update. So it's been a day or two since I had a talk with my parents, my cousins, and a religious scholar that taught me as a child. Please bear with me since my mind is still very much a mess. First of all, let's start with the lady that taught me Islam as a child. She came over on the 5th. My father wasn't home so she talked with my mother. Basically that lady, bless her heart, went off on my mother. She was literally screaming about how wrong they were and whatnot. I actually cried seeing her defend my decision like that because she was the first person on my side. My mother looked very ashamed, but was still defending her decision. Eventually, my mother asked the lady to leave. I was slapped for talking about family matters with strangers. Next comes my parents. My father came home in the evening and my mother immediately told him about my stunt. I was scolded, berated and called every name in the book. I tried having a conversation with them, tried explaining my side but it was all just useless. It was clear that their mind was made up. So in a moment of pure anger and pain I threatened to end my own life if they tried forcing me further. Apparently using their threats against them, makes me the evil person. But thankfully they've been sort of quiet since then and haven't really tried to talk to me about the marriage any longer. As for my cousin, I met with him yesterday. I called him and asked to meet during my internship hours as to not make it suspicious. That asshole thought in his delusional little mind that I called to reconcile with him. As if I would look at that knockoff, China version of a rat twice. As soon as I started talking and explaining why I didn't want to marry him, he got pissed. We were in the building's parking lot in his car so he literally started the car, locked the doors and drove onto the highway so I couldn't get out. I got yelled at for being a bitch who didn't understand his feelings, didn't care for him. He threatened to literally F*RCE himself on me. Literally saw me and ruin my honor because I don't want to marry him. I'm so disgusted right now. I agreed with him for a few minutes so he'll drop me back at the building. Thankfully it worked. I haven't told anyone in my family about what he said because I know instead of defending me, they'll ask why I was even in a car with him. I'm just so tired of all of this. I've started to actually want to follow through on my threat. I already know that my life will be hell if I end up getting married to him. He's crazy, absolutely psychotic. I don't know what else to do anymore. Update 2. So after reading all the comments on the previous update I've decided to try and seek asylum in another country. I have a few friends in university that hold a European passport so I'll probably reach out to them. Hopefully it'll all go well. I've also decided to try to reason with my family one last time. I'm going to sit down and come clean about everything. The dating, the car ride and the cousin's threats. I'm pretty sure this will just end up in me being berated but at this point I'm okay with that as long as the marriage idea is dropped. Edit. So after reading all the comments, I've decided to not talk to my parents about the dating and stuff. I didn't realize how it could be used to further push me into the marriage. I guess I'm just too desperate to find a way out and haven't been thinking clearly. I'm going to figure out a way to get out of this country first and foremost. Once everything is set, and I'm away from all of them I'll tell them everything via message and cut them off. Thank you so much to everyone that took the time to give me some advice. It means a lot, especially since I don't have anyone to do that for me right now. Update 3. I'm going to get straight into it. I got married. Yup, to my cousin. So much for refusing and making plans and blah blah blah. Life is such a fucking bitch. I actually had a plan. I applied for this exchange student program. I was getting it for free on some scholarship, so fully paid off. All I had to cover was my plane ticket which I was working on. Once in Europe I was going to apply for asylum. All of that went down the drain. And it was all because my father got into an accident. I am now realizing just how stupid I am for actually being this naive. But basically that accident was used to guilt trip me and make me marry my cousin. He looked so fucking smug on the nick a day, yesterday, all grinning and giggling while I was literally bawling my eyes out. So today marks day 1 of my married life. Lucky me, not only do I have to tolerate my cousin rubbing it in my face that he got me, like I'm some fucking trophy, I also have to let him touch me, nothing sexual yet, and tolerate his presence. It doesn't help that he's still living with his family so I have to tolerate them as well. On top of all of this I'm going to the northern areas like tomorrow for my supposed honeymoon. And I'm absolutely dreading it because we all know what a honeymoon means. I would rather jump under a train than let that man touch me, so here's the update guys. My cousin or now husband hasn't left me alone for even a minute since the nikah. I'm literally in the bathroom, sitting on a freaking toilet as I write this. I absolutely hate my life. Edit, adding this here so people can get how I was actually guilt-tripped. So basically my father, he's diabetic and at a high risk for a heart attack. I was at university when this supposed accident happened. Apparently he nearly tripped off some stairs and kind of had a scare. He was immediately complaining about chest pain and was taken to a hospital. The doctor said he had a mini heartache or something. But I'm just now realizing how bullshit that story is. I was just so emotional at the time because I was very close with my father before all of this shit. And I kind of agreed on the spot because he kept saying his last wish was for me to marry my cousin. Everyone around me was basically acting like he was dying, so I caved and said yes. Next thing I know, my father is being discharged in the evening and my nikah is set for 2 days later. Update 4. So this is the final update for now. Maybe I'll update somewhere in the future. Let's start with the honeymoon trip. We went to Skardu, northern Pakistan, and it went amazing, at least for me. He had rented out this small cabin thing for us. It had 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen and a small living room. The spare bedroom was locked and the one we were supposed to stay in was all decorated and shit. Apparently he had one of his friends from that area have it decorated with roses, candles and lights. Basically trying to set the mood or whatever. The mood was in fact ruined very soon after. The moment I walked in, the first thing I did was scream about having to share a bedroom with him. I ruined the decorations, threw out the candles, pulled down the lights and then locked myself inside. He had to get the other bedroom unlocked and sleep there. The next day we went sightseeing and I would refuse to walk next to him or to even sit in the passenger seat of the car he rented. I wouldn't take any pictures with him, would yell at him and wouldn't let him touch me at all. When we got back to the cabin, I locked myself inside again. The next day was exactly the same, except the part where I spent his money on ridiculous things. When we got back to the cabin we had an argument. I called him every insult in the book, followed by throwing a vase at him and then locking myself inside the bedroom again. I guess he complained to my parents because as I was getting ready to sleep my father called. I did not pick up. So the entire night my phone was ringing with multiple calls from multiple family members, including his family. At one point he even knocked on my door asking me to pick up my parents' call but I refused. The next morning while I was eating breakfast my parents and his were on a group video call with him. He turned the phone towards me and they tried talking to me. I didn't reply at all and basically told them all to fuck off and that they were dead to me, in Urdu of course. What followed was a series of arguments, and then eventually him having to cut the trip short. Since the day I have come back all the elders in my family have been trying to get me to understand how unfair I'm being and blah blah blah. It's annoying but I deal with it because I get to insult them as much as I want. Me and my cousin have also been sleeping in different bedrooms as of now because I threw cold water on him while he was sleeping. He hasn't tried to touch me again after the vase incident on the trip. His family has tried to lecture me but they gave up after I insulted them and my dearest husband told them to leave me alone. I am not talking to my parents or brothers, they're all blocked. My in-laws have stated to avoid me and my hubby dearest has given up on me. I guess the trophy isn't so appealing when it starts to refuse him, so that's it for now. This is the final update. I might post sometime in the future but not sure. Thank you to all the people that helped me and gave me advice. I've looked into the NGOs and have reached out to a few. Maybe one day I'll finally manage to escape this hellhole. Stories number 20. Aita for telling a man, this is my job, while in the men's restroom. F27, work at a summer day camp. Info to know beforehand, the SC I work at is connected to a gym, so the gym guests and our campers have to share the same bathroom. In both the men's and women's restrooms, we have 2 stalls reserved just for the kids to use and have a sign posted in front of those stalls that they are just for the kids. The SC staff is primarily women and we have very few male staff. We have one male site director but SD's always busy and aren't always available. Part of my job at my SC is listening/watching out for kids so they can be safe while they use the toilet. This is to make sure that the kids aren't playing/being inappropriate with each other and adults aren't approaching or talking to them in the restrooms. Whenever I'm watching over the boys in the restroom I'm always in the doorway of the restroom, I never go all the way in unless I need to. Male guests will see me and be slightly startled. BC there's a woman in the men's restroom, but they don't care. BC they already know about the SC. I was doing the same thing I do every day by standing in the doorway of the restroom, telling my boys occasionally to hurry up so I can send the next kids in when a tall, balding, middle-aged, white guy stops in front of the locker room door and stares at me for a minute before he starts talking to me. WG is weird guy. WG, excuse me, ma'am, do you know there are children in here? Me, yes. I know. WG, do you know there are adult men in here? Me, yes. I know. WG, well I don't think it's appropriate for a woman to be in the men's restroom. Me, I understand sir but this my job. WG, what is your job? I don't understand why you're in here. Me, I work at the summer camp. My job is make sure the kids don't go into the same stalls or let adults talk to them. WG, can you a manager? Me, sir this is my job. WG, but why are you in the restroom? Me, sir this is my job. WG, but it's inappropriate that you're in here. Me, "Sir, this is my job. I need to make sure the children don't go into the same stalls or let adults talk to them." WG, "Okay, but you're just standing and hanging out in the men's restroom having a whole conversation with me and me. Sir, you started talking to me first." Mind you, I was calm and did not move from my spot in the doorway at all during this whole interaction. After I said that, he paused, and stomped away into the connected locker room. I stayed in the doorway until my kids finished their business, told my SD and a few of the other camp counselors about the whole interaction. They were all on my side. My SD told the gym's front desk receptionist about what happened to me with my description, and they said that they'd keep an eye out for him. Even though almost everyone was on my side, when I told a few relatives about it, said shouldn't have escalated the situation, should have just left quickly to get a male staff or my SD. I don't think I'm asshole, but those relatives are making me second guess myself. Am I the asshole? Stories number 21. Aita for blowing up at my son's father and grandmother when I found out they trashed my son's formula and pacifiers. So I, 20F, live with my boyfriend, 28M, and his parents. Despite being on birth control, our son is a oops baby. He came early at 36 weeks. I was scared shitless by the labor and delivery nurses telling me he would need NICU time. He didn't. He would have feeding or breathing problems. He didn't. And he was just overall small, and I ended up with a second-degree tear due to him being sunny side up, and now almost 7 weeks later it still hurts to sit down and move certain ways. I still have back pain from where they placed the epidural. My recovery hasn't been easy. My stitches are healing well for the most part, and I'm going to get an IUD placed to have a more permanent type of birth control, because even after being on the birth control pills for 2 years, they aren't 100% pregnancy proof. Since my son was born early, the nurses gave him formula at first. I really didn't care. I just wanted my son to be healthy and be able to come home. My son's father/boyfriend and his family have pushed me to breastfeed all through my pregnancy. It wasn't ever something that really crossed my mind. My goal was just to have a healthy baby, and we both survive. The hospital also gave us a pacifier, and my son's grandma said that pacifiers were just a crutch that babies didn't need, and I was setting him up to have teeth problems and need braces later on. I tried pumping with the hospital grade pump and it hurt. I tried breastfeeding my son, but it hurt, and a lactation consultant at the hospital said I would struggle with breastfeeding due to my anatomy and the fact my son has a tongue tie. I just said okay, whatever, let's give him formula. My son's father's family, especially his mom, were not happy about it. While I'm up changing diapers and bottle feeding my son, she's also up and in my ear telling me how breast is best and you never know what's exactly in formula. Spoiler alert, she breastfed my son's father and his 3 siblings, so I guess it's like some sort of pride thing for her. She was the same way with my boyfriend's sister when she had her kids. My son's father even said one time it would be hot to see me breastfeed, and to be honest, that just gave me the ick so bad. I haven't gone back to work yet, despite me applying to jobs left and right, so whatever my son's father brings in with his paychecks is how I'm surviving right now. It's been tough, and I have to pretty much justify how I spend his money. Why did I spend so and so at Walmart? Our son needed diapers, wipes and formula. I can only last so long. Well, why can't you start back breastfeeding to save money? I don't want to. Our son is happy and healthy and thriving on formula. My son's father won't even make him bottles because he thinks it's unnatural, when I supposedly can just magically make breast milk appear again. My son had an appointment this morning to check his weight with the pediatrician because while he is gaining weight, it's been slow and he's been spitting up the formula. Ended up being gone for longer than I wanted to because the pediatrician's office was running behind. When I got back to the house, I went to make my son a bottle and found the formula canister empty. My son is crying for his milk, and I ask his father what happened to the formula can because it was still half full. He just shrugs and goes, "It looked old so I threw it out." I asked him why would he do such a fucking stupid thing, and he yelled at me not to talk to him that way. Then his mom came into the kitchen and yelled at me for disrespecting her son. I had to grab the formula can out of the trash can and saw all of the dumped formula powder just sitting there along with my son's pacifiers all mixed in with the garbage. At this point my son's grandma picked him up and was trying to console him because he was getting upset. She started backing up my son's father, saying the formula he's on always looks expired and old and gross. I ended up yelling, "Oh my god," and called my son's father selfish and shitty for wasting something so important. It ended up with his mom yelling at me to get out of her house, and she refused to give me my son as he was crying. I lost it on her and screamed at her, "Give me my fucking baby," and she threatened to call the police on me for verbally abusing her and physically abusing my son. I ended up leaving with my son to a friend's house and thankfully had a sample can of his formula stashed away in the diaper bag I keep in my car, along with the 2 small sample cans the pediatrician's office gave me today. Both my son's father and grandma have texted me, asking me to come back and saying I shouldn't have been so dramatic and that my son's father was just trying to be careful. He wasted the baby's food and put my son in a difficult situation, and he doesn't even get it. Neither does his mom since she's backing him up on this. They're both making me feel so guilty. I'm just trying to keep my son alive. I ended up calling my mom to talk to someone about this whole mess and she agreed with my son's grandma about how I should have breastfed, or at least used donor milk lol, but she also said I'm the mom and can make my own decisions about my son. I asked her if we could stay with her for a couple of days and my mom said she just didn't have room for us, which is fair, she has my 4 younger siblings living with her as it is. I feel so mad and frustrated. I'm literally on hold with my son's pediatricians to see if they can give me any more sample cans before I go back to my son's father's house. Ada for getting mad over formula being trashed, or was my son's father in the right here? Edit, my friend loaned me enough cash to get my son a can of formula, thank God. My son's pediatrician's office never picked up, so I left a message for the receptionist and I'm hoping they will get back to me before they close. We can only stay with my friend for maybe a couple of days because I don't have anything beyond what's in the diaper bag for my son. I'm going to apply for WIC and SNAP benefits and see if a lawyer will help me get sole custody of my son. I'm not married to his father and I really don't want to go back to his mom's house if I don't have to. I should have grabbed some of my own stuff, but I was so angry I just wanted to get out of there. Going back to playing phone tag and trying to get help to get us out of this situation. A huge thank you to the Redditor who helped me with finding resources in my county and offered to help with stuff like diapers for my son so we don't have to go back to his dad/grandma's. I have a lot of places to call tomorrow to hopefully get the ball rolling. Update to Ada for blowing up at my son's father and grandmother when I found out they trashed my son's formula and pacifiers. Edit 2, I've made a GoFundMe for those who want to help after like 4 or 5 people suggested it. I'm getting it up and running now, but thank you to all those who have been kind to me. Please know I really appreciate it. I can't wait to put this situation behind us. Edit, you guys, I am doing everything I can here. I cannot make a lawyer take my case if I don't have the funds for a deposit. I can't make a shelter worker take us in if they don't have space. I can't go to a different county for shelter or resources when I have nothing but my son's diaper bag and my purse to my name. I have people in my inbox telling me I should have my son taken away from me and I should go to jail for leaving his father and grandmother's house for crying out loud. I called a shelter in the next county to mine and left a voicemail, and now I'm calling churches for help too. I'd be grateful for a hotel room just for the weekend. I am doing everything I can in my power and some of are just being downright mean and shitty. It's not like I wanted to be in this situation at all in the first place at all. Hi everyone, I know a lot of people wanted an update. Things haven't exactly gotten better, but they haven't gotten much worse. So here's an update for those who wanted it. I don't have a parent's home to go back to for those telling me to go back to my mom's or dad's. My dad is listed as unknown on my birth certificate and my mom kicked me out when I told her I was pregnant because she has my younger siblings to take care of. It was either living with my boyfriend and his mom or just being homeless while pregnant. I didn't think my son's father and grandmother would screw me over so badly like this though. My son's pediatrician's office did call me back yesterday morning. I couldn't get through to anyone Wednesday afternoon, and I was able to go in and they gave me a list of resources. Most I already knew about like WIC and SNAP, but they also gave me the number to a women's shelter in my area. I live really rural, so there's only one that was listed. I gave them a call, explained my situation, and they asked if I was in any immediate danger. I said no, I had left with my son. She asked if I planned on going back and I said no. She asked if any physical abuse had happened and I told her that my son's grandma refused to give him to me until I started yelling, but she said that didn't count because it wasn't physical. She also said I couldn't keep my son away from his father, but my son's father and grandmother haven't tried contacting me since Wednesday when I left. She gave me the number of legal aid in my county and said to complete the eligibility application and she would contact me when a spot opens up at the shelter. This was yesterday and I've tried calling this morning with no luck on getting anyone on the phone. My son's pediatrician's office also gave me all of their newborn and size 1 diapers they had in stock and another sample can of formula for him. For those saying I need to get a job, get a lawyer, save money, I know that. I just got cleared to go back to work at my 6-week postpartum checkup. My last job was working as a cashier at a gas station and I only made $9 an hour. I've applied to jobs but I can't make anyone hire me on the spot. If it weren't for my friend loaning me money to get my son a full canister of formula, he would be surviving off the sample cans I had in the diaper bag and what the pediatrician gave me on Wednesday. My friend let us crash with her from Wednesday night until today. Her roommate comes back home and I don't blame them for not wanting me and my newborn to sleep on their couch. Trying to convince my mom to let us come crash with her until the shelter can find us a bed, but I don't think that's going to work out either. I filled out the eligibility application for legal aid yesterday and I am really hoping I hear something back soon. I tried calling custody lawyers after Googling them, and out of the few I spoke to, only one was considered low fee, but they wanted a deposit of over $1,000, which I don't have, and I am terrified of my son's father using his mother's money to get custody of my son and keep him away from me. One really kind person here on Reddit offered to get my son diapers and wipes so I wouldn't go through what little I had in the diaper bag. I also got a lot of really weird and some downright hateful messages too. Yes, I know I shouldn't have had a kid at 20. Yes, I should have kept my legs closed, and a lot of you have some really strong preferences for breastfeeding. It just wasn't something I felt I could do. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I literally never thought my son's grandmother and his father would act like lunatics over this. No, I am not giving my son up for adoption. No, I'm not dropping him off at a firehouse. I am doing the best I can under these circumstances. I plan on applying for all of the government help I can get once I have a permanent place to lay my head. I've been running off fumes and trying to wrap my head around everything. I'm still in shock over it all, and I know I need to get sole custody of my son and keep him away from his dad and grandmother. It's not like I can start lactating again at 7 weeks postpartum, but boy did I get a lot of messages telling me I didn't try hard enough or didn't care enough about my son because I feed him formula. I keep staring at my phone waiting for the shelter to call to say they have a spot for us. I feel so bad for my son that this is what his life is like, and I'm angry at myself for everything too. I'm hoping I can get the ball moving on getting assistance and getting a lawyer and finding something more stable for us soon. I know it isn't much of an update, but I know a lot of people were concerned and asking for one. I'll try to update again when I have better news to share. Stories number 22. Aita for telling my sister's baby daddy to sleep in the spare bedroom instead of on my couch in his underwear. My mom passed away 2 years ago, and the house she shared with my dad was left to him. He moved to Mexico for a while and rented it to me, my fiancé, and a roommate, his best friend's daughter. The roommate moved out after failing to pay rent, but I continued covering the mortgage and invested in repairs, new floors, plumbing, cleaning, etc. My dad recently moved back and now lives downstairs. We split the mortgage since he can't afford it alone. I want to keep the house in the family. My fiancé and I live upstairs. I'm 5.5 months pregnant and work as a flight attendant, so I'm often gone and exhausted. My sister has a 3-year-old daughter with a man, BD, who was abusive to her. They broke up, but she let him stay with her while he figured things out. She moved to a new place with a new boyfriend but let BD stay at my house so he could see their daughter on his days. He's not on the lease, pays no rent, doesn't work, and I didn't have a say. She's comfortable with him watching their daughter here rather than at a hotel or a new place where he would be living with random roommates. The spare bedroom upstairs is basically a laundry/storage room with a bed. I asked my sister to help clean it if BD wanted to sleep there. She said she would but never did. I cleaned and washed linens myself. Still, BD sleeps on the couch in just his underwear and walks around shirtless. It makes me extremely uncomfortable, especially being pregnant. The other night, I made soup and was with my niece. My fiancé came home, and we were trying to have a normal evening. My niece peed on the couch, and her parents, my sister and BD, were cleaning it. I told them the bed is clean and BD needs to sleep there, not on the couch. If he has issues, he can clean or bag the laundry. Which she said she would help me do and never did. My sister blew up. She said her daughter is more comfortable sleeping on the couch with her dad and that I'm kicking a 3-year-old off the couch. She called the room a dirty-ass room no one would want to sleep in, even though I cleaned it. She accused me of acting like a victim and blowing up, even though I'd been asking nicely for weeks. She insists the house is just as much hers as mine because it belonged to our mom. Today she threatened to start paying part of the mortgage so I can't keep acting like it's only my house. Her 3-year-old daughter has basically no discipline and dictates where she sleeps. My sister lets it happen. I don't plan to let a toddler control my living space or override adult boundaries. After this, BD left and got a hotel because he felt I wasn't welcoming enough. My sister had to take her daughter to her own house and got upset with me for ruining her plans, as if setting boundaries in my home is the problem. To be clear, my sister doesn't live here or pay rent. BD is here for free with no responsibilities. I pay the mortgage and maintain the house. I'm pregnant and just want respect and boundaries. Update. Woke up to this text from my dad. I got this text from my dad this morning as I woke up, in a group chat with me, him and my sister. This episode of y'all arguing yesterday was uncalled for. I hate it. Let's all learn to discuss things in a cool-headed tone with respect. If BD needs a place to stay or sleep, he can certainly stay upstairs, preferably in more than boxer shorts, lol. He just needs to help contribute to the bills. As my mother would say, family is everything, and just because BD is an ex of my sister, he's still my niece's father. But I'll say this, if he ever puts his hands on my sister again, it'll be the last thing he does. Stories number 23. Aita for not wanting my sister-in-law, her husband, and 3 children at my birthday dinner. Backstory: my BF, 26M, and I, 26F, have been dating for a year and change, so I've spent a lot of time with all members of his family. His sister is a great person, however hers and her husband's personalities are much louder than mine. I find when we spend time together I am constantly talked over, invalidated, and overall ignored and made to watch the children when she is present. I was a preschool teacher for 7 years. A few weeks ago during family vacation we were spending time in theme parks, but if she didn't want to ride a ride or watch a show, forget about it. They brought all 3 children, which my BF and I ended up watching most of the time because she wasn't wanting to deal with them. In my family history that is a big no-no. The parents watch the kids and don't pawn them off on other family members. We run a tight ship, lol. During this same trip she also announced she's pregnant, found out that morning, very early, which is great. But then the entire rest of the trip was all about her. She also has not told her father this, as he was not present during vacation, and they have a rocky relationship due to the stepmother, sister-in-law conflict. That's a whole other Reddit thread. With backstory concluded, I can now explain why I don't want them there. I originally planned my birthday dinner at the local Italian place, with just my mom and BF. Then it turned into inviting my BF's dad and stepmom. They cannot eat at said place because something they cook with makes them sick. So now I changed the eatery to Texas Roadhouse, somewhere we can all enjoy a meal. My BF then asks his sister plus her husband plus kids to join us without asking my permission first. With that being said, this is the first time she will see her dad and the rest of this side of the family since finding out she's pregnant. I'm worried she's going to use my special dinner as an opportunity to make it about her, because this side of the family hasn't seen her in months. My BF's reasoning for inviting them without asking was, if we don't invite them it will make the rift worse and now you get to celebrate with more people. So am I just being petty with anxiety because my birthday dinner completely changed into something I don't want, or is it justified because of how I've seen her act before in similar situations? I just wanted a quiet dinner for my birthday. Stories number 24. Aita for choosing to go to my grandfather's funeral over my unborn daughter's 20-week ultrasound. My wife, F25, and I, M26, are expecting a baby girl due in November. We are both so excited for it. I've been talking to her through my wife's belly, being excited, feeling kicks, all of the fun stuff. 3 weeks ago we scheduled the 20-week ultrasound. It'll be closer to 22 weeks. The last week and a half my grandfather's health had been slowly diminishing. I had a talk with my father and family and were told that sometime within a week of his passing we would have the funeral. This made my wife and I have to talk about the plan. I was asked to be a pallbearer at the funeral. She said she'd want to stay home with the dogs so we didn't have to board them, and that I could go by myself to the 4 to 4.5 hour trip up north to my father's hometown. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away late last night/early this morning. I called my father to make sure he was okay, which he was holding on as much as one would when your father passes away. But I was told the funeral would be held at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. This just so happens to be the exact same day that my wife has the ultrasound. My wife is now upset that I plan to go to my grandfather's funeral instead of go to the ultrasound appointment. I said, well, we could FaceTime. But it's my grandfather, I know FaceTime isn't the same. But she said, yeah, but this is your daughter. Now she is mad and upset at me. I'm emotionally torn from this because I'm so excited for my baby girl but also really sad about my grandfather. I want to know if I'm the asshole here. My wife's feelings are always going to be valid, but I feel like mine aren't being considered in this situation. I don't know. Stories number 25. Aita for telling my friend's date to shut the fuck up after he started lecturing her. So me and my friend went on a double date the other night. The guy she went with, she had just met because he's friends with the guy I'm talking to. She really liked him, so she asked me to set up a double date. Cool, whatever, I made it happen. The date started off fine until she told him she didn't really drink alcohol or smoke weed much before college and kinda started after meeting me. This dude literally turned it into a whole lecture. He started saying stuff like, you're just being a follower, and, you didn't do any of that before, so why now? Then he starts going off about how he's seen people die or become addicts and how she's heading down a bad path. Like I know my friend, she's super reserved and shy. Like I know her face when she's about to cry. She went quiet, she looked embarrassed, and I could tell she didn't feel safe speaking up for herself. So I stepped in. I told him she's okay and I always look after her, like relax. And he starts going back and forth with me like, you don't know what could happen. Anything could happen to her. Honestly, I got pissed off BC he was annoying TF out of me. So I told him to shut the fuck up, and if he doesn't like the fact that she drinks and smokes, he shouldn't see her again. It was pretty much awkward after that. After that, the guy that I'm talking to texted me and told me his friend is mad because he felt like I was being rude for no reason. What's even crazier, my friend is mad too. She told me I did too much, that she really liked him, and now he probably won't be interested anymore. Like. I was defending you. Aita here. Stories number 26. Aita for not giving my sister the name I planned for my baby. I, 29F, am currently 32 weeks pregnant with my first child. My husband, 31M, and I found out we were expecting a baby girl early on, and we were so excited. Ever since I was a teenager, I've loved the name Lila, pronounced Lilu. It was my great-grandmother's name and has always had deep sentimental value for me. It's soft, elegant, and just feels right. My younger sister, 26F, let's call her Rachel, is not pregnant. She's not even trying. But she and her fiancé have a baby name list they've been working on together for a couple years. Totally fine, whatever. About 2 weeks ago, I had my baby shower and officially announced that her name would be Lila Grace. Rachel went quiet and then later pulled me aside, upset. She said she had Lila on her list for years too and that I knew that. I honestly didn't. She said I beat her to it and that it wasn't fair because she's always wanted her first daughter to have that name. I was kind of stunned and said, well, I'm sorry, but this has been my name forever. I've literally told Mom I'd name my daughter Lila since I was like 15. I'm already attached to it. She told me she thought I'd choose something else since I didn't mention it during her engagement party when baby names came up in passing. I told her I didn't feel the need to check in with her hypothetical future child before naming my very real one. Now she's been cold with me and even told some of our family that I stole her name and undermined her dream. My mom thinks Rachel is being dramatic but also says I could have compromised by changing the spelling or middle name. My husband is firmly on my side and said, we're not giving up our daughter's name because your sister made a Pinterest board. So. Aita for sticking with the name I wanted, even if it upset my sister. Stories number 27. Aio for crying and wanting to leave my husband after he called me a hippo. I was joking around about my crush on a famous guy. I guess my husband got jealous and he said, that would hurt me, if it wasn't coming from a hippo. Okay, so he got back at me, fine. Then he had to continue with it, what are you doing out of your water? I'm about 5 feet 2 inches and weigh between 145 to 150 pounds. I used to weigh between 110 to 125 when I was younger. I'm not happy with my current weight. I've been at this current weight for several years now. I want to get back down to where I used to be, and it's really not that much weight to lose, but I'm finding the whole diet and exercise thing much easier said than done for a variety of reasons. It just really hurt. I was always a cute, small, petite girl. I know I can change it and just need to be dedicated to it. I found myself wondering how long I can go without eating. Of course I know that's stupid, but I just wanted to prove that I can do it. I want to get very thin and then dump his ass and I don't want to have to spend a year doing it. Anyway, this is a stupid rant. I usually just read Reddit and have never really felt a reason to post before, but I desperately just wanted to be able to tell somebody about what my husband just said and how it made me cry into my dirty old t-shirt. Stories number 28. Aita for posting my Amazon registry link online after my family tricked me. I 18 female is starting college in August, my birthday is also in August. I have never been close with Mu dad's side of the family as they lived far away and preferred to talk to my other cousins. My grandmother reached out recently and told me to make an Amazon registry for the things I would want for college and my birthday. I must say I started a part-time job and already started my college shopping because I am an only child and would like to help me parents. When my grandmother told me to make the registry I made sure to send links to products I wanted and asked if they were okay to add. She said yes and told me that she would get my aunties to buy off it too. My expensive thing on my list which is a tablet and the other things on my list range from $9 to $71 all things I made sure to ask if they were okay to add. Fast forward to last week after sending the registry link from the week before I realized that nothing was bought, I brushed it off and continued about my week. My cousin 19 female called me to tell me that grandma and our aunts were buying her a laptop and won't be contribute to my registry. I didn't fuss, I didn't complain, I just told her congratulations and hung up. Knowing that I would be able to pull together the money for the things on my list, my friend suggested I post the link to X to see if anyone would like to contribute. I did and somehow one of my cousins found the post and told my grandmother and aunts and now am being labeled as entitled and an embarrassment for asking for help. Aita, Stories number 29. My kids are equally as special despite being different genders. I've come across so many people whose attitudes towards kids' gender is so old-fashioned that it's toxic, sexist and even downright creepy. I have a 7-year-old daughter, light of my life, and my husband and I changed our minds on being one and done last year and just welcomed our now 9-week-old son. It doesn't feel any different to me. They're both my babies. I love them both fiercely and deeply and cannot wait to see them grow into their own personalities, lives and adventures. I feel just as much love for this little one as I do for my eldest. Obviously they have different needs due to the significant age gap, and they will have different interests because they're different people, but I swear the way some people talk about my infant being my son, rather than a second daughter, is just so disturbing. From saying things that look old-timey but innocent enough on the surface like, oh, a proper gentleman's family, or one of each, you must be just thrilled, as if we wouldn't have been with another girl, down to actually shocking and gross things like, it's just so much more special when you have a little boy, daughters are so difficult, little boys just love their mothers more, you're so lucky to finally have a boy, now you have someone to make his father proud, and the vomit-inducing. Remember mama, you'll be his first love and his first kiss, ! No future daughter-in-law can ever take that away from you. Yes, someone actually said that to me, while I was still pregnant with him. Excuse me? That is downright undeniably harmful, toxic and sexist drivel, that directly seeks to devalue and undermine my daughter while simultaneously placing disastrously high expectations, pressures, and disgusting sexualizations on the future of my infant son. Nasty, just out and out nasty. People need to touch some grass and reconnect with the real world. Stories number 30. Aita for getting upset that my wife keeps eating the lunches I meal prep for work. I am 55, work construction and like to prep my lunches on Sunday so I don't have to think about it during the week. It's a routine that saves me time and money, and frankly, I look forward to my food when I'm on site. I'm not trying to lose weight nor am I on a specific diet. It's solely for taste and convenience. Lately, my wife has started eating my lunches. I'll go to grab one in the morning, and it's just gone. When I bring it up, she shrugs and says she was hungry and didn't feel like cooking. Almost every time she gives me $10 or so to make up for it, but it doesn't help when I'm left scrambling before work or have to spend money I didn't plan on. It happened just today again. Thursdays are especially busy this time of the year. I've told her this is frustrating and doesn't take into account the effort I put into planning for my lunches. She thinks I'm overreacting and says it's just food and that I'm being selfish for not wanting to share. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, but maybe I'm missing something. Aita Reddit, to clarify. She works from home 2-3x per week. These are the days she takes on of my lunches. Unless it's a Friday. She always tells me not to make lunches for her. Stories number 31. Aita for refusing to continually pay for both tickets when my friend is getting the hotel for free. My friend 42F and I 38F go into the city a few times a year to catch a show. We'll call my friend Laura. Because we're old and can't stay up late driving home, we usually stay at a hotel overnight and drive home in the morning. Laura's mother has a crazy amount of travel points so she uses them on the hotel for us so we don't have to pay. Laura always asks me to pay for both tickets to the show, and she, and her mom, will cover the hotel. Laura is obviously not paying anything for the hotel, but since it's her mom's points she says that's a fair trade. I agreed the first couple of times but after a while it just seemed like Laura is being a little selfish. Her mom travels for a living so she has what seems like an unlimited amount of points. So it's not like she's depriving herself by using the points on our hotel. For an upcoming show, I told Laura that it's not fair that she gets a free show every single time and that I'm always paying full price. I asked her to split the cost of the tickets. I'm trying to save money and I honestly can't afford continuing to pay for both tickets. She got mad and said using her mom's points is the same as her paying her own way. I eventually said I would just drive home after the show because I can't afford to keep paying both tickets. She ended up pulling out completely and now we're not even going to the show at all. Edit. We stay at the same hotel each time which, if paid cash would cost around $450 including fees. We would stay in the same room together. This particular show is $300 per ticket but that's on the high end of tickets from past shows we've seen together. I can't afford $600 for one night. The reason this is so frustrating is Laura's mom's points are for a specific hotel chain. I don't get to choose where to stay. I would never stay at this particular hotel if we were deciding based on cost. I would choose a much cheaper place. There is no reason to stay in a hotel with lots of accommodations if we're only staying there to sleep. Stories number 32. My 28F, husband, 30M, was paralyzed in an accident. I love him, but I'm grieving the life we lost too. Hi everyone. I'm 28F and my husband, 30M, was paralyzed from the chest down in an accident about a year ago. I've never written something like this before, but I need to get this out somewhere anonymous because I'm struggling and I don't know who I can safely talk to about it. I love my husband deeply. He's still the same person in so many ways, kind, funny, emotionally strong. He's handling his situation with a kind of grace I honestly admire. I've done everything I can to be supportive and to keep our life together going. But I'd be lying if I said it hasn't completely changed my life too. And I'm starting to feel crushed by the weight of what we've both lost. We used to be very active. We traveled a lot, went on hikes, had an adventurous sex life. Now, those parts of our relationship are just gone. We can't travel the way we used to, and physical intimacy has become incredibly complicated. I know sex isn't everything in a marriage, but the total absence of it, combined with how lonely I feel, has started to take a toll. I feel guilty even writing that. It makes me feel selfish or like a bad partner. But I'm grieving the life we both lost. I didn't sign up for this version of reality, and that's not his fault obviously, but I don't know how to come to terms with it either. I guess I'm asking, is it possible to mourn what your life could have been without being a terrible person? Is it wrong to feel trapped even when you love someone? I just feel like my needs, emotional, physical, experiential, have been buried under a mountain of guilt and survival mode. And I don't know how much longer I can suppress that without breaking. I don't want to leave him. I'm not looking to cheat. I just want to know how others have navigated something like this or how to get through the complicated grief of losing a version of your life without losing yourself in the process. Thanks for reading. Stories number 33. Aita for refusing to pay off my husband's pre-marriage student loan with my pre-marriage savings. Husband has a pre-marriage student loan abroad that he's refusing to pay off. He probably has 3x that amount in savings but refuses to pay off his loan. I have exactly that amount saved in my account abroad. He hinted multiple times that I should pay off his loan using my own savings from that account. He keeps saying things like, "We're married, your money is our money, my debt is our debt. We should use our money to pay off our debt." When I refused, he would gaslight me by calling me stingy and saying how I benefit from his education, how his education brings in more money to the family, so I should pay off his loan. The funny thing is, I make more than him, and I never asked him to pay my student loan. I worked hard during university, worked hard afterwards, saved strategically, and paid it off all by myself. Not a single dime was from him. He also tries to gaslight me by saying things like, "Are you going to leave me? If you're not planning to leave me, then your money will always be our money, so it doesn't matter that we use your money to pay off my loan." If it truly doesn't matter, then why doesn't he use his money to pay off his loan? He has more than enough, he can pay it all in full today if he wants to. I don't get it. Aita for refusing to pay off his student loan. Edits. We had a long and emotional discussion afterwards. He said he wasn't completely serious and apologized for hurting my feelings and breaking my trust in him. He agreed to pay off his student loan entirely by the end of this year, using his own money of course. I'll see how this goes. I think I need time to process this. Stories number 34. AIO. Spouse took $100 from my wallet and now I want a divorce. My husband fought with me first thing this morning because he went on my Facebook and saw that I was following 2 men. I don't even know who these 2 men are, or why I was following them to begin with. He only realized I wasn't a f***ing liar when I went on his Facebook and saw that he was following 2 girls, who he didn't know, and he didn't know why he was following them. So I forgave him and went to work. He said he called into work himself due to not having enough money for gas. No biggie. I learned while I was at work that he took $100 from my wallet. He tried to justify it by stating that he gave me $70 in cash recently, so the money he took was actually his. He had all but a little under $20 left from the money he took by the time I learned about it. The problem? I have had issues with him and money in the past. I learned he was spending $60 to $140 per day when we first combined finances, approximately a year ago. On substances, I learned. So 100% of my income and his now goes to an account that is inaccessible to him. I pay bills, give him money for gas and lunch, and try to save the rest. This has been going on for about 4 months. Just last week, he took $50 that I failed to transfer immediately from the shared bank account into the account that was inaccessible to him. On top of that, the bank account was overdrawn by an additional $80 because he transferred money that wasn't even there to his Apple Pay account, also resulting in $70 worth of overdraft fees. Over the course of our 1-year-long marriage, before I started keeping money in an account he could access, he has taken approximately $2,500 in cash from my wallet and other various hiding spots, and he has blown through approximately $12,000 in withdrawals and unaccounted for charges. Since I began putting 100% of all household finances into an account that he couldn't access, he has spent about $6,000 in various ways, money I don't immediately transfer from the bank account to the account he cannot access, borrowing hundreds at a time from his dad and expecting me to pay his dad back, taking cash from my wallet, lying to me about what he needs dollar for, overdrawing the bank account. My own spending is very minimal due to having been homeless as a teenager, but now I make good money between two jobs and I see no benefits from it because my husband keeps blowing through our finances like it's lunch money. The shared bank account is always at $0, because if it's not, my husband will make sure it is. I am trying to get my family ahead in life, and it feels like my husband is continuously dragging us down. Stories number 35. Aita for leaving my girlfriend at a parking lot because she didn't take her feet off my dashboard. This is something that bugs me to no end. I was raised that feet belong on the floor, not in the air, and not in somebody else's car. Especially barefoot, I just find it rude and gross. I, 25M, kept telling her, 25F, to take her feet off my dashboard and she kept refusing, stating that her legs hurt and it's more comfortable. I said I don't care, I don't want to see your bare feet and I don't want it touching my dashboard, especially since I try to keep my car spotless and it leaves prints on it and the windshield that I have to clean later. The first time, I asked very nicely. I said, please take your feet down. She ignored me. I said, this is very disrespectful, you don't see me taking my shoes and socks off and putting my feet on your dashboard. She didn't care. So it became a huge argument and I told her, if you won't take your feet down then just get out the car, because 1. I'm not about to be liable if there's an accident and your pelvis gets obliterated, and 2. It's just a respect thing. If someone asks you to not do a certain thing to their personal property, wouldn't you just listen to them? So I left her at a parking lot and got home to my phone blowing up, cussing me out and saying I have anger issues and this and that. Am I the asshole here? I really don't feel like I am, but some outside perspective would be nice. Stories number 36. Aita for picking a dinner my girlfriend didn't like while playing a game. My girlfriend wanted us to play a game where we go to the grocery store and play rock paper scissors to determine what we'll eat for dinner that night. We do 4 rounds, 1 for appetizer, dessert, entree, and drink. I won 3 out of 4 rounds, appetizer, entree, dessert. I picked frozen pizza for the entree, to which my girlfriend said, I'm not eating that, I don't like frozen pizza. I said, oh, I'll pick something else then, and then she said, no, you won, I can't tell you what to pick, so I still chose frozen pizza. She was then frustrated and quiet with me throughout the rest of the night. Even when I mentioned, okay, I put the pizza in the oven for 19 minutes, she said, I'm not eating it, so you don't have to tell me, in an annoyed tone. Overall, this gave me the impression I did something wrong by choosing something she didn't like. But at the same time I feel frustrated that we agreed to play the game and then she ended up not eating what I chose after losing. Stories number 37. To fool by thinking my wife was moaning, but she was choking. So this happened 2 nights ago. My wife and I were watching a movie on the couch, eating leftover steak and fries. She had just taken a big bite and leaned back into me. I was half paying attention to the screen and half scrolling Reddit when I suddenly heard her let out a weird, low moan. Like, a suggestive moan. Naturally, being the idiot husband I am, I responded in kind. I leaned in and said something along the lines of, oh, is it that good, baby, and kissed her neck. She slapped me. Like, full palm, across my chest. That's when I realized she wasn't moaning. She was choking, on a piece of steak. She jumped up, gasping, and stumbled toward the sink, and I completely froze. I stood up, trying to remember what the hell the Heimlich was. By the time I rushed over, she had already coughed the piece out into the sink and was crying and furious and gasping all at once. I stood there like an idiot, and all I could say was, I thought you were just into the food. She didn't talk to me for an hour. TLDR, thought my wife was moaning over her steak, responded flirtatiously. Turns out she was choking. Nearly let her die trying to be sexy. Stories number 38. Aita for telling my friend I'm not interested in her baby or being involved in her new mom life. I, 29F, have been child-free my whole life. I've never wanted kids. I've never liked being around kids. I don't even like holding babies. It's not a phase or trauma or anything like that. I'm just not wired that way. I've always said I don't want to be a mom or have anything to do with parenting. One of my close friends from college, let's call her Anna, 30F, recently had a baby. She's always wanted kids, so I'm happy for her. I even got her a baby shower gift and dropped off food when she came home from the hospital. But now she's acting like I'm supposed to shift my entire lifestyle to fit around her new life as a mom. She keeps making comments like, you'll change your mind one day, or, you'll be the cool auntie, or, wait until you hold her, she'll melt your heart. I just laugh it off, but it's getting annoying. She even started sending me parenting videos and baby milestone photos every other day. I don't react and she keeps pushing. Last weekend she invited me to a moms and friends gathering at her house and I politely said no. I don't enjoy being around kids and I didn't want to spend my Saturday surrounded by babies and diapers. She told me she needed support and said I should be there for her now that things are hard. That's when I finally confessed my feelings that I care about her but I didn't want to be involved in baby stuff. I didn't want to babysit. I'm still her friend but nothing has changed on my end. She got really quiet and just said, wow. Okay. She hasn't talked to me since and now one of our mutual friends said Anna's feelings were really hurt. Apparently she cried and told people I was cold and made her feel abandoned. I didn't mean to be harsh but I also feel like I was honest. I didn't insult her baby or her parenting. I just don't want to be involved. I didn't sign up to be a second mom just because I don't have kids of my own. It feels like people think being child-free means I have all this free time and no emotional limits. I'm allowed to set boundaries too, so now I'm wondering if I was too blunt. Aita Reddit, just wanted to clear a few things up since people are asking and making assumptions. Anna and I are close, but we're not best friends. We've always gotten along and stayed in touch since college, but we don't talk every day or share everything. I care about her and I'm happy she's doing something she always wanted, but we've never been the kind of friends who are super involved in every part of each other's lives. Also, this wasn't the first time we talked about boundaries. I've said multiple times that she should ask our mutual friend, who does like kids and has babysitting experience, to help out instead of me. I even offered to help pay that person so Anna wouldn't feel stuck. She just kind of brushed it off every time and said things like, but you're her aunt in spirit, or, I just want people I trust. I do support her. I sent gifts, brought food, checked in during pregnancy. I just don't want to play a parenting role. That's not the same as not caring at all. I get that new motherhood can be isolating and hard and I feel bad if my words added to that. I do plan on reaching out to apologize for how I said it, because I wasn't trying to be mean. But I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not either. I think there's a way to say sorry without going back on the boundary I set. I'm just figuring out how to word it. Thanks for the feedback so far. Stories number 39. I, 18F, wanted to go to a gym and work on myself but my boyfriend, 19M, is against it. What should we do? My boyfriend really despises me wanting to go to the gym to work on myself. He knows my dad will also be at the gym while I go there. I also told him we could call and that I would wear baggy sweatpants and a hoodie with a sports bra on or a jacket with a shirt and sports bra on. But he keeps pressing on me that I should also wear a shirt underneath the hoodie but that makes me feel like it would suffocate me. He also does not want me to converse with anyone in the gym, not even a simple conversation. I've also told him that we could gym together but he isn't that financially stable to afford a membership to the place I'm going to, but I have offered to pay for 3/4 of the expenses of the membership and traveling since he would also be traveling for around 30 to 50 minutes via booking a motorcycle since he doesn't have his own vehicle yet. It's like an Uber from where we are from just to get here since he is kinda far away. For some information, I am not overweight but I am kind of chubby, so I want to work on myself and have a healthier lifestyle because I'm always up all night and playing games and my energy has decreased by a lot. That also affected my studies. My boyfriend is not a gym goer and he's the reason why I'm always up and playing games and we both do enjoy them. He also sometimes helps me with my studies if he knows how. He doesn't really do any workouts but he goes out every day because his mother asks him to buy daily needs for them and pick up his little sister from her school, which he always only walks since it's not very far. It's really unfair. I barely go out, so I want to change that about myself and start working on my lifestyle and focus on myself and my studies again but not leaving him behind. I apologize if my grammar and spelling are incorrect. English isn't my first language. Edit. My height is 160 centimeters and I weigh 137 pounds. Edit. Thank you so much for your responses. I just find it really hard to leave him knowing he is the first guy I ever gave my trust to and the first boyfriend I ever had, and the first one I introduced to my very strict family. And the fact that he told me I'm his lifeline and might K*** himself if I ever left, an actual possibility because he almost stabbed himself when I tried leaving but luckily stabbed a bag of his, and said that I'm allowed to leave if I try again but his life won't be guaranteed and he told me he loves me so much. Stories number 40. Aita for telling a woman to keep her comments to herself in an elevator. This happened earlier today. I was waiting for the elevator in my office building. The doors opened, no one was directly in front of me, so I stepped in. A woman and an elderly couple were just behind me, but I hadn't seen or heard them until after I got on. As soon as I stepped in, the woman complained out loud that I didn't let her on first. I was caught off guard, but I apologized and said there was plenty of room for everyone, so it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't trying to cut anyone off, I genuinely didn't notice anyone behind me. She got on with the couple but kept going, saying how rude I was, how I had no manners, how people like me are what's wrong these days, stuff like that. This went on for at least a minute, maybe more, and eventually I snapped a bit. I raised my voice and said, "Could you just keep your comments to yourself?" She went quiet, but the old couple sort of whispered something to her and gave me a look. Now I'm wondering if I just confirmed whatever idea they had about me, like maybe I actually was the jerk here. I honestly didn't mean to offend anyone. I just wanted to ride the elevator in peace. So, Aita for finally telling her to be quiet.